Vital's B-Practice podcast is proudly sponsored by Maxxis, Burgtec, and Industry 9. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Vital's B-Practice podcast, presented by Maxxis, Burgtec, and Industry 9. This is Jason Schroeder, usually joined as always by Tanner Stevens and Stack Attack Dakotah Norton, but today it is just me and Tanner because Dakotah, well, I don't want to speak for Dakotah because we actually don't know what he's up to necessarily, but oh man, the trash truck is coming down the alleyway hot right now.
Oh man,
it's gone. We don't know maybe his state after his crash he had at Leogang in, I believe, qualifying. The qualifying he crashed out. Yeah, because semifinals he bounced back for a top 10. But it's currently Tuesday morning for us, which is the evening time for Dakotah. And we've been trying to communicate, getting on here to do a podcast like usual. And he's been trying to sort out, I guess, his head more than anything. He's just been like seeing specialists, it sounds like, ever since the weekend. So
we did go ride moto. So
did he? I didn't see that.
I think he went ride moto right after the race.
Well, that might just be to like blow off some steam. I mean, this week being such a tight turnaround with Val di Sole this coming weekend, and it's a XC and downhill weekend, so racing's on Saturday, so everything shifted up a day sooner. I knew it was going to be tight to wrangle him in anyways, and I should show people like the group text sometimes because he is so bad at texting. It is insane. I don't want to light him up too much because he can't defend himself, but it's pretty bad. So with all that said, I told him to try to get a hold of me within the next 12 hours or so. And if him and I chat about his weekend and how he's at physically and mentally going into Val di Sole, I will insert that right now.
I feel like how am I? I feel like an 02 YZ125. It's got no knobbies left on the tire from riding in the street. They've been using chainsaw get in the gas with ethanol. Starts sixth kick, some extra gel coming down the silencer, and definitely missing shrouds. Rear fender blown off is how I feel at the moment. I'm beat, but I'm getting there. You know, the whole race Sunday, come back, go drive right back into it has been rough.
Yeah, that sounds like a rough one.
I was so overbooked yesterday. I'm sorry.
Let's start from the top of you get done racing Sunday. Now it's Wednesday. And I couldn't get a hold of you for all of that time.
Yeah. My phone wouldn't. I was having technical cellular difficulties. I was about to shove my iPhone into the creek at a high rate of speed via my arm. I was about to let this cannon rip on my iPhone. Dude, I don't know. It's just my phone does not work in this valley. And last year we had the same thing, like crazy cellular issues, and we were at the pimpest hotel possible and we couldn't podcast here. It's just challenging. And so I raced Saturday, came across the line, packed my stuff.
Wait, you raced Sunday, no?
Raced Sunday.
Yeah.
Came across the line, packed my stuff, went to dinner, got home from dinner at 10 o'clock at night, got back to the room, packed my stuff till midnight, woke up at 7:30, was in the car driving at 8:30 with a cup of coffee, drove 5 hours to Alpine Stars, spent 5 hours at Alpine Stars, and then drove like 2.5, 3 hours to Val di Sole. Got here the night, woke up, they packed a pit. I ran around like a chaos boy yesterday. What did I have to do? I had a bunch of stuff I did, and then woke up, and this morning, like 10 a.m. this morning was track walk. So it's there wasn't a lot of turnaround. Jumped in with the physio yesterday for a bit. Kind of like got my stuff organized in my room, went to the truck, and somehow I was at the truck yesterday from like noon to 7 o'clock at night. And it was like, oh wow, it's dinner time again already. Sorry, boys.
But it's still got to be easier than being a privateer. Like your privateer.
Yeah,
days.
it's for sure easier, but you instead of working on your bike, you're just doing other stuff. It just seems like it's just different, Like today I talked to the Alpine Stars pad engineers for an hour and a half, protection
Mhm.
engineers. We went to the I woke up, got my stuff around, went to the track, was at the truck for breakfast at 9:30, went up for track walk at 10:15, got done with track walk at 1 o'clock, did a ride, physio, or went to try to get to the physio. Ronan was already in. I did something in the pit for 40 minutes. I went to the meeting at 3 o'clock. I had a pad engineer meeting at 3:30, the rider engineer or the rider track meeting from 3 to 3:30. It was a short one. Pad engineers till 4:30, in with the physio at 5 to 6, had an interview with GoPro 6 to 6:30, meeting with the team at 6:30, 7 o'clock dinner, left the pit, packed my stuff, left the pit at 8. So it just makes for like a full day. Yeah, I had 40 minutes where I wasn't doing something and I was getting my own stuff around. So it's like, yeah, it's way easier, but you're just doing stuff all day. Like I don't know where the day goes every day.
Mhm.
It's like I have a meeting. I just like jump in. We talk about a plan with the engineer. I talked about travel with the team manager. And it's just, you're just kind of like bang, 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 talking to people all day, and it's dinner time again. No, I left that thing at 8, and now I'm sitting down with the podcast to you at 8 o'clock at night, jumping on, getting
Well,
jiggy.
I appreciate you penciling us in.
Yeah, well, that's the least I could do for a couple of guys like you. Well, only you today. What the heck?
Well, we recorded a whole podcast without you. It was different.
Was it weird?
It was weird.
I think, you know what? I think for this condensed schedule, I'm sorry, but it's just it's when they back to back us on a Sunday race and Wednesday track walk, and then it probably would have been a lot easier to jump in if we wouldn't have went to Alpine Stars, but that definitely ate up an entire day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on travel day. But it was cool. It was super rad to see.
Yeah, it sounds sick.
But
yeah, I saw you guys were there.
Definitely made it very busy. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we can run through this quickly then, just because it's nighttime for you. You got practice tomorrow.
It's all. You know what? The really cool thing is, I was sitting in the finish corral, and these dudes were like, "We love the podcast, dude. We listening." They have beer in their hands, all stoked. Dude, the podcast. I'm turning on at work. I'm like, yeah,
Heck yeah, that's what's up.
Hell yeah, brother.
Oh
No, it's all
yeah.
good. I got time. Frida just left for dinner. And I'm done for the day. So I'm yours, baby. The world is your oyster. Dakotah Norton is your oyster. I'm sad. I'm sad that this was a chaos podcast, but you know what? After this week, we go to Leogang, so we'll be able to like really get Tanner's takes and break down the 2-week racing block, and it'll be cool.
Yeah. No, it'll be good. We Leogang was kind of a what's the word for it? Like just like a deja vu race. What's the word for it? Groundhog's Day. It was very Groundhog's Day feeling race from the outside watching it and the site covering it. It was a good race. Everything was good, but like kind of came and went. And like I'm more excited for Val di Sole now. And I don't really have a reason for that, but we chatted a bunch of crap. I'm more interested just how was your weekend? I didn't hear from you much over the weekend. Seemed like a pretty up and down. How's your body? How's the head?
Yeah, I just I've been running around like full chaos mode. But yeah, what did we do? What did I do before Leogang? I left Schladming. We tested on Sunday some new parts that we had for the bike, which was exciting. I only got 6 runs in, and it was pissing rain. But some different I mean, I really feel like I can't share too crazy much, But I really hope we can do a podcast more on the technical side of things at some point in time when I actually know what I'm allowed to share. But we did some leverage and link changes to the bike, which was really excited. We've been waiting on these parts for about a month, and I knew they were coming. And for me, the direction that I'm running my bike, I think everybody knows at this point that I'm running, and it's pretty public knowledge that I run quite a lot of compression, and I'm chasing a more damped, low riding bike, like riding deeper in the travel, more damped, fast rebound type setup. Like my friends along the way over there at the in different pits around there that I chase every week. And yeah, just taking a different approach for sure to things that I'm really happy to be working on. So was like super stoked to get those parts, but at the same time, like, so I know that this is better. I got 6 runs in, which was like a jump to the weekend, but then it was so slippery all weekend that I never really felt like I got to get the bike set up how I wanted it for the race run. Like it was really slippery in practice, and then I got the afternoon, which was cool, to get some runs in on the bike and start to get a feel for the setup and have an idea of what it was going to work like through time training. And actually, I really struggled. I got up to speed too quick and was overriding the track and kept coming off of the track, not off my bike, but off the track. And it was quite frustrating for me, to be honest, because it was like I was always riding fast, like 2 to 5% faster than the grip that was available and making mistakes. Obviously, I've been doing a lot with like my health and just trying to get my brain to react faster for sure. Like I don't know, like I think I have some issues that were creating a lot of brain fog. So just trying to be a little more lively, a little bit less inflammation in my system and things like that. So yeah, it was just kind of overriding it. And maybe it was because I was feeling like I had a lot of energy or I don't really know why. But worked on getting the bike set up, felt great in qualifying, 3 splits up. I was green at all 3 splits. Looked like I was going to be able to, I think I probably was on route to go fastest in qualifying. Unfortunately, off the drop. I'll attach some photos. Went a bit deep off the drop in the woods. My high bar saved my life. So I kind of got bucked off the drop into a hole. And then I buckled my arms and I was able to like not buckle and go over the bars, but I got myself pushed up. But by then I had ran too far in the off camber and just tucked the front into one of the trees and then just went head first into the ground and definitely rattled myself quite a bit. Say clean the old cobwebs out. So knock the old cobwebs out of the rig there. Just hit my head hard enough to go, whoa, like, whoa, that wasn't nice. Slapped my head. Not enough to where I felt like I was like in a concussion state or like I was like looking at not riding, but definitely like after everything we've been through and how much I've done for brain health and been like on this big path of trying to fix a lot of issues that I've had from hitting my head over the years, I'm super cautious now. And yeah, just kind of took it cautious in the semi for sure. Rode conservative because like I'm like, man, I don't need to go up here a couple hours later and go down again. And so try to. I mean, obviously, I think I was in a place where I could have taken another hit, but if for some reason I was going to get any sort of symptoms from hitting my head, I wanted to be in a reserved position that I had planned to pull off. Or if I like, I went through my warm up and raised my heart rate way up and had no issues with any concussion symptoms and stuff. So I mean, dude, for how many years we've taken us and all of our friends have taken huge slams. Like I never would have thought anything of it a few years ago, but now that I'm doing so much for my health that it's like I understand like sometimes if you have a big crash and you were to hit your head, you wouldn't get the result you wanted anyways because there was no like when we were kids and we are like, oh, should we ride? Should we not? Like the amount of times I've absolutely deleted myself and still tried to race and you come down in 120th and you're like, oh, I don't know why I'm not fast because you just bounce your head off the ground. So I didn't want to leave myself in a position where if I did start having any blurred vision or any issues riding, like I had fully planned to pull off, or but I didn't really have any issues. Had a good semifinal run, was on pace, came down in 8th place, I think, and put myself in a great position for the final. Definitely, like the last couple weeks when I was absolutely slaying it, it was like, I mean, 8th is always like, 8th is a great semi. Got good points. Yeah, just because I did really good at Poland, and like you want more, but you're not gonna get that all the time. You can't, like, just because you achieve something doesn't mean you're gonna just continue to achieve it. Like, progress is not linear. It's kind of an up and down battle to try to continue to climb. So I was really happy, and then on race day, man, it was slippery in the morning. I struggled with confidence, struggled with pace. Didn't really execute the bike setup as well as I would have liked to have, and it was just wasn't in the race. And that's why I can't really, I'd like to ask, what was it? Bike setup? Was it execution of the race day? Was it, maybe did I have some effects that made me a little slow from that crash? I don't really know. I can't really speak for it, but I wasn't there. That's racing.
Yeah. I mean, still a decent weekend, all things considered. So
yeah, I think it was 58 points, I think, from the final day. So I put some points in the for a bad weekend, for like a weekend I would consider like I was not striving or thriving whatsoever. It was pretty good to be still kind of in the mix, put some points in the bank. I did move back to 8th in the overall, which is honestly the devastating part for me. But at the same time, like, it wasn't like do or die. Some dudes did really good. Some dudes that were really fast didn't even qualify. So yeah, it was really bizarre seeing the mix up of the results list.
yeah, I mean, with how many names, even in finals, crashed out, especially in the lower woods, I think just to make it all the way through is a positive,
Yeah, like you always want more. Like I always said, I wish I
Mhm.
would have rode the woods faster for sure, no doubt.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like, well, I did still get through them pretty fast and pretty decent. Yeah, I went 3.3 back, which is kind of a bummer. But I could have also crashed and got 30th and been out of the top 10
True.
overall. And now we're at Val di Sole, and it's supposed to rain all weekend, and having that protection is going to be huge, because there's going to be a lot of top dudes that if they're not top 10 in the overall, they're probably not going to be in the final. So
Yeah.
it's a huge game to try to keep that.
You were talking about bike setup, maybe not getting it quite to where you wanted to. And as people will hear, Tanner, I talked a lot about how Leogang has very distinct sections, and maybe bike setup can be difficult because of that. Like, do you set your bike up to cater towards the upper 2/3 or the lower woods? And what were you struggling with, or do you think you missed on come your race run?
That was a big question for me too, because it was insanely wet in the woods in the morning, like almost unrideable. I put a shorty on in the front to even get through the woods. Like the first run, I think Dooley's got some pictures. Maybe I'll see if I can get them from him. But like I went off the drop, blew off the track, and I literally just left my bike lay there, and I just got off of it and walked. I went to the bathroom and like walked around and stood there for a while and just left my bike lay down there because I was over it. I was like, this is unrideable. This is ridiculous. Just hung out there for a while. Had to regroup. But yeah, I didn't know what to think for tires. It dried up top quite a lot, and I stayed on intermediates and
The
front
trusty
and rear.
intermediate.
Yeah, the trusty dusty intermediate. Um, Yeah, I didn't move to a dry tire, but didn't run a mud because the top was pretty dry by race runs, and I definitely did lose a bit of time on the motorway. Because just rolling. I think I lost like I was like 1.7 back up top when I came through, and obviously got shuffled way back from that. But I think just overall, I just lost speed rolling because I was running an aggressive tire. I really should have went to a dry tire because the woods were slippery, but they weren't uh they weren't slippery, but not a lot of mud. So Ronan went to a dry in the rear, which I think would have made a huge difference. But yeah, I really do wish I would have went to a dry tire setup. I think I gave a lot of time up from that. And also I set my bike up decently stiff in the front for the woods, and I think it just killed me up top. I think I maybe should have set my bike up to get to the woods as fast as possible and then just rode them to the best of my ability.
We, as people hear, we talked a lot about almost the opposite because the lower woods seemed so detrimental to a lot of people's race runs, and there was a lot of time to be had because so many people made mistakes. Like if you were a little bit back coming into those lower woods, like good examples are Loic and Ocean O'Callahan. Both of them were not the fastest up top, but had great lower woods, and it paid off.
They were
Where like
spending
Luca
it.
Shaw and like a lot of people had really fast upper sections and then had a little bobble in the bottom and lost it all there. And like, I mean, I think that this led into us talking a lot about electronics and the benefit of being able to have multiple bikes in one at the flick of a switch, which I'm sure you would enjoy having something like that on your bike, especially at a track like Leogang.
Yeah. 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 I wish I could have hit the switch on the old motorway, that's for sure. You just hit the switch. Switch.
But I mean,
man.
it's interesting to hear you say that, set it up for the top and then just weather the storm at the bottom. And I think a lot of people might have had that same thought, and then it didn't pay off with their bike setup being not as supple and good for traction in those lower woods. It was maybe too set up to roll fast up top. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is the fork needed to be really stiff in the lower woods because of the grade, but then the bike doesn't turn very well on the kind of flatter corners where you need front wheel grip, the flat, kind of slippery, polished bike park stuff. Where there would be a benefit to being able to have the fork a bit stiffer, or just in general, like if you look at O'Sheen's bike, I think it was very stiff all around. And I think that he just kind of bounced through the lower woods because his bike was so stiff. I mean, he's had a lot of years on that bike, and as you like ride a bike, or well, I guess it is a new bike, honestly. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of that back. But as the traditional Fox mechanical setup is very stiff, like the traditional way most of those dudes set their bikes up. They're running minimal sag, not a lot of damping, relying heavily on the spring to hold it up, which is great for pumping, great for carrying momentum, great for support. But the bike would have maybe not been great in terms of, I mean, I'm chasing traction. That I'm trying to keep the wheel in contact with the ground as much as I can to have more grip, which is the big reason that I'm doing things the way I am. But I think that if you looked at O'Sheen, his bike was just moving across the ground so fast. And then because of it was stiff all the way around, the fork was really stiff, so he could get it through the woods. I wish I would have took a better, I said how many times, not going to be too soft. Not going to be too soft. Well, it's too freaking soft. Again, which part of that was, having a new setup coming into the weekend. And I knew that this setup, like developing that setup through Leogang, would hopefully put me in a better place for Val di Sole. Just because I want to develop the bike for the end of the season and year 2 of the program, right? So I'm constantly trying to move forward. Yeah, it would be great if I could just set it and forget it, but that's easier said than done for sure. Because a lot of work, a lot of work. Yeah. So I think that a stiffer set. That's why we've seen O'Sheen go so fast. And manage it like maybe he was on dry tires at the bottom. I think Specialized boys were on dry tires. They had, I think they have a lot of tire options. Bruni's good, dude. He's just freaking good. They're dialed in and they're rolling. I mean, well, I don't know how much his suspension had an effect on it from what I understand. I would think that from where I seen the clip of him hitting the button, I would assume he has like a setup for the top and a setup for the bottom. But dude, he dominated.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominated.
Yeah, we talked a lot about him this weekend and how the suspension tech they have is obviously an advantage, but it's all the pieces coming together. Like he's been on that team and bike for so long now. His mechanic has been behind him for so long. And then you add in an advantage with the suspension. Like he's riding really good this year. I think if you took that stuff off of his bike, he's still the dude probably. So
No doubt. He could win on the stuff he was on last year. I mean, for sure. Or 2 years ago. I mean, he's 2 years ahead at the moment, which is mind-boggling to me. I think. I mean, who knows? I don't actually have an answer for that. Like, I'm that's what I think in my head. I mean, I think I like maybe to a degree look up to what he's doing, and to a degree like also fixate on that one guy. But when you look at Luca, he's made a huge jump in the last. Like, he is a different dude than he was a year ago. Like, completely. Troy is rolling. Dude, I rode with Finn quite a bit when I was in Schladming, and he was hauling. Like, it was like pretty wild when he turned it on. Like, I put a GoPro on for a run to follow, and he like lit it up, and I was like, whoa, like this dude is legit. Like, it was like uncomfortable following him. Like, I was uncomfortable the whole time, and I was like, we are going World Cup race pace right now, and he just turned it on. Like, so, which is kind of cool. I rode with Finn and Luca over the break, and I don't normally ride with them. Usually Luca kind of does his own thing over there in North Carolina, and he'll come to Windrock, but he kind of does his own thing. And yeah, it was really cool. I didn't really know Finn, and we had like a great time. It was really cool to ride with those guys in like a very laid back environment. But man, they're both going fast at the moment. So if I can go do runs with them and ride at that pace, like Luca was like, you guys are great, going really fast. So it was like kind of cool knowing that, watching Finn and Luca crush it on the weekend and be like, oh man, like, I had an off weekend and I wasn't there, but that doesn't mean that I don't have that speed, which is cool because those dudes were like elite podium. I mean, Finn was second and Luca was on pace to try to win the race, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's sick. Yeah, I think all the fun electronic stuff is enjoyable to chat about and kind of do the what if, like, oh, what if everybody was on it and yada yada. And I think at the end of the day, you can still have people
I will say
win without it.
Yeah. Finn, when we were riding, he wasn't on his electric bike. So I mean, that boy, I mean, he did a day of testing, and when it comes time to work, and yeah, they work super hard. So it is cool to talk about it. Like, it's so rad. Like, to me, where the sport is going is so cool. Yeah, it's super rad.
You guys should have measured your axle to bar height when you were together and seen what the difference is, because he has like the lowest bar height.
Yeah,
we got to get that number
quite
out
a bit.
there.
Quite a bit. I had Jackson on his bike. I should have snapped a photo. And Jackson's bars were 10 mil lower than what he normally runs them. And he was able to like fully stand up with his hips unlocked, which was pretty interesting. I think, like I said, I was chatting to him about his bike fit, and I think he's in a super modern fit for the bike at the moment.
Was he back riding?
No, he's just hanging out. He's like on a European vacation.
Good.
I think, from what I can tell.
Yeah. I had one last thing I was thinking about was setup, and that's Fox's new damper, new Grip X2 damper.
X2. Yep.
And you were mentioning how like Grip 2 is definitely pretty spring dependent for support, and like you didn't do a whole lot of compression stuff. People left things pretty open, it seemed. Didn't do a whole lot, where now their like whole philosophy is way more damper dependent. Have you found that it's like caters more to what you're looking for, or are you like still not what I want?
Yeah, you know what?
Because you have
no,
unique
I'm
needs, I'm just curious.
yeah, for sure. My whole bike, I mean, you can do my whole bike is pretty soft on spring rate, which means it rides a bit deeper, but you have to account for the bike is now not running in the position it was designed, like it's riding a lot deeper, which changes all the angles. It changes your bottom bracket height, it changes your head tube angle, your front center is getting shorter because you're deeper in the travel. As soon as your bike starts using travel, your front center gets shorter. It's and on my bike, when it sits deeper, my chainstay gets shorter as well. So we have to adapt the static geometry of the bike to cater to running the suspension softer. And it might only be a few mil, but those few mil make a big difference. But what I have found out of the new Fox Grip X2 damper is their whole philosophy now is, more damping, less harsh. What I've seen out of the PowerPoint. And it's like so interesting to me because like the old damper had no damping. Like it was very, very open, very reliant on spring, which is cool. It's really interesting for me to go off the spectrum for a while and then all of a sudden to see the things coming around and what I was working on. Like they're doing more of what I was working on last year, which is really exciting. I mean, I wasn't on the Grip X2 damper until actually Poland. And I think it has a very wide range. The low speed damping works really well in the fork, which was really good. The rebound is really fast, which is nice. And it has a bunch of support, which and even like the range of support that it has is like really good in my personal opinion. And I think Fox has done a great job at keeping the range that they have and using damping to help control the fork even like more in the mid stroke than the previous damper did. And it's really good. It's a really good for a platform that you can just walk out and buy. It's really good.
Sick. Cool to hear.
Like
I was curious.
It's like
I haven't ridden
a mini dirt bike fork.
It pretty much is. That's sort of how they designed it. I've only
Crazy.
ridden it a little bit, but compared to the previous Grip 2 damper, it is so much better, I think. Especially just for like off the shelf, like you're saying, consumer that gets on it, maybe not applying it to racing. You can make it have so much more control than before. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. All right. Just to maybe not make this run too long, let's just talk Val di Sole because you're already there. You walked the track today. It's been raining. Is it going to be like the gnarliest weekend ever?
So I walked the track today. It's already pretty soft. Like there's like 4 or 5 inches of dirt kind of over the whole track that's very soft. And I guess the base seems to be quite a bit stiffer. Like once you get a few inches under the dirt, like it's like still a hard base. But I think it's gonna cut up quite a lot. And I heard we're gonna get a lot of rain tonight. A lot of rain.
Danger.
Get the spikes out, Jim. We're going racing. I think it's going to be a heck of a day tomorrow. A friggin' real day out, bud. I think we're just going to be just slipping and sliding and, just having a day. I don't know what to think. It's rained really, really hard all afternoon. I think it started raining at about 2:00 and it's rained like pretty hard now until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. It's still raining and I heard it's not stopping.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really coming down. It's really friggin' pouring out there, bud.
Is it supposed to continue through the weekend?
From what I can see tomorrow and qualifying day, yeah, it's going to rain.
Oh
And
wow.
the track is it's over the years it's become more on a bench. They moved a ton of like almost like more because like that ladder is like funny.
I feel like I'm starting to lose you on reception.
How about now? You're clear, dude. You're crystal.
Yeah, I think it's been a little in and out, but I think you're going back to where you were. Start back about, I feel like I heard you said something about like bench cut and black dirt
Yeah.
and stuff. Start there.
So yeah, we'll try that again.
Oh,
But let me
it
know.
sounds
I
better
can
now.
dial in if I need to. We just lean forward. Over the years,
That's all it takes.
yeah. Over the years, Val di Sole has gotten more, let's call it bike parky, or like a lot of man-built rock sections and things like that. And they've moved a ton of gravel onto the track because the black dirt, like the traditional top coat, is like unbelievably slippery and impossible to ride. So they have, I think, catered it to be a little more rideable over the years. More benches, but there's still plenty of routes off camber. Like, there's enough to keep everyone on their toes. Don't you worry. So it looks good. I mean, the first section is super off camber and it looks all really fresh. So it's gonna be gnarly for sure. No doubt, it's gonna be super gnarly.
Yeah. Do you think that all the hype about bike setup from last week and the electronic stuff just kind of goes out the door for a track like Val di Sole because it's pretty consistent from top to bottom?
I think having a good base of your bike is still going to be really important, but a lot of the like electronic is going to go out the window just because I think maybe you'd put it in like some sort of like a pedal mode for like to the woods, and then maybe like to the step down, and then maybe from like those last two straightaways, but you come into those last two straightaways already so fast that it can't have like a huge effect, right? This is one of the tracks that just having a good bike, having a good base of your system will make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And high handlebars.
I was just thinking about like your bike setup, and I'm like, so you have to change nothing then.
Yeah.
run
So
run it like run
essentially,
like you brung it.
I'm gonna be out there on that there friggin' Harley dangerous. Win is so funny, dude. I walked pretty much the track with him today. Like we were kind of walking down at the same pace, and dude, he's a comical human being. He is really like when he turns it on, oh Lord, it is actually legitimately very funny.
Is this the weekend that we go up from the 75 mil? Do we hit 80?
You might see 80. I might be putting another 5 underneath there. Can you believe that?
No.
Me either.
Especially when I think
absurd.
Especially when I think back to like your Morpheus days and your bars were like maybe 20 mil rise with like pretty slammed everything. It was
I was clueless.
very BMXer slalomy background vibes.
Yeah, I was clueless. I had no idea what was happening. I was just stoked and sending. Oh, why do I got a flat tire again? I keep breaking wheels. I just pull up off everything. But yeah, I think the bars are going to go up 5. The chainstays are going to go out 5, and we're going to be hauling the mail.
Yeah,
we came with. It was really good. Like we came up with a pretty clear plan of the things we wanted to try and in a process for doing things this week, which is pretty cool. Like starting like as the team, we do more with the team and the race engineer. It's really cool to see like the plan instead of just like kind of reacting all day, which is pretty positive if you ask me. And I'm really happy with kind of how we're working through things and just kind of moving forward. It's exciting. We got some cool changes and we're going to be able to have a bit more adjustment, which is really nice.
Sick. I'm stoked for it. Well, overall, it seems like you're pretty pumped for the weekend. Like,
Honestly, I'm terrified, if I'm going to be quite honest. Like, every part of me is like, I love Val di Sole. Like, I just like it when it's like rough and gnarly, and I feel like I'm on a friggin' dirt bike track, and it's like being in Schladming, riding braking bumps and cut up corners and huge holes in the corners. Like, dude, I felt like it like inflated my ego, or like it was like putting hair on my chest, Like,
oh
I was
shit,
like,
we don't need that.
no, but I was like, this is gnarly. Like, this is thick, because Schladming got so rough in the break, and then we actually destroyed their bike park, which I feel terrible about. But it was like world class rough, but not a lot of roots, like not a ton. So now that like we're here and it's wet and it's like I tell myself I love Val di Sole, like it's gonna be gnarly, it's gonna be a man's track, like it's gonna be like rugged. And now I'm like walk the track in the rain and the roots, and I'm like, actually, like this is gonna be like this is gonna be almost virtually unrideable tomorrow, and I'm kind of afraid.
Good
Like
thing you're not in
first
heat
run is
practice.
gonna be like full scooter mode. Like I'm gonna have my foot out, just trying to get down the track. Like once I'm just really not that good at riding wet routes, because we just really don't have any in East Tennessee. So
Well, it's going to be a really entertaining Vital Raw from tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that.
there are gonna be bodies on the floor.
Well, hopefully it dries or is at least consistent come race day. So,
I mean, if it gets gnarly enough, we'll just be on spikes and surviving. So it could actually, it would be cool if it, traditionally, other than maybe Ludenville, we haven't had a track that like properly cut up, like a fresh track where we're riding like deep, gnarly, fresh stuff, which
mhm.
I'm not really that good at because I never do it. So, like, but it would be pretty fun, Like it would make for a really rad day of riding. So if it saturates a little bit more and we get some ruts and it's gnarly, like I would like that way better than what we normally do is just ride hard packed grease. And that's just not it's not something that I really genuinely enjoy that much. But it's all good.
Yeah, fair enough.
We ride a lot of it. It's like always like that at home. So like
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe if I never rubbed that, I could just like pump myself up to like send it. But when it's like hard packed grease, I always ride it and I know how wrong it can go. So I'm just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. So good.
Well, Godspeed. Good luck.
Thanks, brother.
It's gonna be freaking intense, at least tomorrow, maybe the next day. Give me your picks for riders you think are going to be fast this weekend. Like, give me one or two for each category.
Oh man. What? Junior men, our boy Asa is probably gonna be all in the mail. Let's be real, he's not scared.
Mhm.
I think in the junior girls, I'm wondering to see how Reese does. I know these are like genuinely people that do pretty well in the class, but I'm excited to see how Reese does. In the women's field, I mean, I thought last week Miriam winning was like really, or I mean, back on the podium was really incredible. Sorry, not winning. Being back on the podium was really incredible, and it was like super cool to see her like achieve that. And I think that will make her feel maybe more back in the mix and like get a sense of kind of going for it. We'll see if Valley continues her dominance after building that confidence as well back home. I'm really interested to see because she like won in demanding fashion in the last week. So we'll see if she does that again. Also, our girl was crushing it It's really cool to see an American girl in second, and I don't know why. Why am I drawing a name? We're drawing a blank here.
Who? Anna?
Anna Newkirk. I was just thinking
Mhm.
Abby for some reason.
No.
But Anna, I'm excited to see if she can continue to take that confidence, take that feeling of being at the top and continue to run with it this week. Because that's the trend, right? We're seeing confidence. We're seeing riders that are gaining confidence, riders that are losing confidence. Where Asa, had a bit of a rough one this week, and now going into what is the toughest track on the circuit, is he gonna be able to bounce back from that and be able to go back and stay on two wheels and continue his dominant fashion? And then I just really think we got that boy out there with them handlebars in that elite class, and he's going to be coming for some. You
I like
friggin'
it.
know, you betcha. No,
I got you on my list.
yeah, I hope so, dude. I can't talk about the rest of these guys. I mean, it's just come on. But no, that's it. I mean, obviously, my boy Ronan was going for a win last week and had a few moments. We were watching his GoPro earlier in the pit, and brother was loose on the rig for sure in his race run. But he was going for it. So he's fearless at the moment. Loic is in dominating fashion. Finn, we'll see how his thumb does and if he's able to, not hit it again, but he's incredible in these wet, slippery conditions. I'm not known for being a mud monkey, but I'm fully ready to get out there and get after it. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. I think we have right now the racing is so competitive in all of the categories, which is really cool to see, and it's making it really fun to watch.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah, every category has cool storylines going right now and good racing. So
Yeah,
I'm all about
yeah. And Pinky put it in the final last
it.
week.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. He was so pumped at the bottom, and I was really excited for him because that's tough. So hopefully he can just continue to plug that in and continue to put it in the final week after week here now that he has a bit of confidence, because he's definitely had more than enough speed all season. Like for sure had the speed, just maybe lacking a little bit of confidence or race knowledge of knowing what the pace was. So after last week, I'm sure he's going to be pumped because he had great speed even in the final. He just had a bit of a slip up. So yeah, I'm excited, man. We got cool things happening. It's going to be a great week of racing.
I love it. It's good stuff. I think that's it. Unless you want to keep talking about stuff.
I mean, I just want to say sorry for not being around for the Pull podcast this week to all of our listeners. It won't happen again. I know I'm a bit out of control. I'm a loose operator. I'm working on my planning. We'll get there.
I feel like we've talked about it years ago. Like, yo, like hire me and I'll like come along and kind of plan things and kind of be like your mechanic. And then I don't even remember what team that was on, but it never happened. But
well,
I
mean, it's expensive. It's expensive. But hey,
you're
know
right.
what?
I am
Maybe we
expensive.
could. I mean, maybe we could work on it.
Mm-hmm.
I might need. I might need somebody because I am out of control.
I'll do some contract work on the side. I'm not opposed.
Brita has come home.
Huh?
Nice.
Look at that timing.
We got our girl. We're just gonna take a minute to plug our girl here. She was bone bruised at Fort William, out for Poland, was on crutches 2 days before Leogang, and raced the race, and unfortunately had a hugie in qualifying. But
No.
she was like doing good, and her ankle wasn't hurting her, and she was riding super well. But she hadn't been riding and had new suspension and bottomed the old rig, and it was see you later into the woods. But she had her first hugie after her head injury, and well, our girl can take a slam again. She's back.
That's good. Is the ankle okay after the slam?
Ankle is still solid. Ankle seems to be
All right,
solid from
good.
what I can tell. And yeah, bone bruising is not super fun. Like originally it was looking like we were gonna have her back for Leger, but she's taping it up and she's getting jiggy.
And Frida's going to try to race this weekend too.
Yep. Yep.
Sick.
She's a mud monkey though, so we'll see. Hopefully she can qualify it and maybe even try to make a run at the final here. Is what we're hoping for. Big shoes to fill for somebody that didn't miss the whole month of training. So that's kind of a bummer, but we'll get there.
Yeah. You know, it's not like it's maybe going to be one of the hardest Val di Soles in a few years.
It's nothing for a Viking.
That's a good way to put it. I like that. All right.
Yeah, dude.
I'll let you go to bed. It's noon here.
Yeah.
I probably should try to turn this thing
It's
around
9.
ASAP, Rocky.
Yeah. Are you gonna end the recording?
Yeah, I'll end it right now. All right, everybody.
All right.
We'll jump back into Tanner and I talking right now.
Now, beep.
Let's just jump right into our Industry 9 Buzz report since it's just you and I bench racing this week. We've already talked about this, the first note here, but Troy is still running a bigger rear rotor, 220 rear, 200 front. I think it's the way of the future. I think it makes way more sense because we brake with our rear brake more. I don't know who out there is actually braking with their front more.
I do.
There's no way. I don't buy it for a second. I'm going to buy the telemetry and stick it on your bike.
You can, and it will show. When I was younger, I had a brake malfunction on the old Hayes 9s on my Kona Stinky. So I rode North Star Bike Park for like basically an entire summer with just a front brake.
What?
Yeah.
And
true story.
So are you saying that your current braking habits are just a bad habit product of that? Or like
no, it's because you slow down faster with your front brake.
But the thing is that to me, that is only
your back brake only keeps you straight.
Braking more with my front brake only feels good in a straight line or a more straight line.
Yeah, that's when you're supposed to brake.
Yeah, but that's like not the reality, you know?
Homeless people yelling.
Yeah, there's another homeless guy in the alleyway. Sorry.
But yeah, you brake in straight lines. I feel like that's also why I really liked the bikes that I've liked. Because I brake mainly in straight lines and then let off the brakes in like corners and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But what if you're in a situation or a section where you want to just feather your brakes to like slow down a little bit, but it's not like a heavy braking zone and then another section? Like, are you not slightly dragging your rear?
I'm pretty like on off with the rear brake. Like
I mean, I definitely
brake
with both.
more. Yeah,
like I'm even with both, but I go through rear pads faster.
Really?
Like significantly.
Yeah.
Especially when it's dry and loose by us. Like if I'm using, I'll think about it a lot. When
that's
it's really
why
loose.
If it's like dry and loose, then that's why like braking in a straight line makes a lot more sense.
For sure, but there's like trails that you can't just, there aren't enough straights to be braking in, or the trail isn't steep. So like you're not needing to brake a whole lot. You're needing to like shave a little bit of speed. Think about some of our trails that like back-to-back corners that aren't like you're pumping speed or like trying to gain speed and carry it through them, but you're still having to check up just a tad bit. I don't know.
I swear I brake way more with my front than I do with my rear.
Oh my God. I need to run this test up. Maybe I'm wrong too. And I brake way more with my front and I just think I brake more with my rear.
Yeah. I feel like Troy, he likes the bigger rear because he said he drags it or like it heats up more, but maybe that's just in certain sections he's dragging it. Because I feel like you also wouldn't want to brake as much with your rear because it changes the habits of your suspension.
I mean, there's definitely truth to it. I think if you're braking heavily on the front, you have more tendency for your bike to dive, and that sort of depends on like the terrain you're riding. But I mean, think about Val di Sole this weekend. if you're braking percent wise more with your front, I feel like the odds of tucking a front end and pushing a front end seems so high. Because Val di Sole, you can't just brake only on the straights. Like,
yeah,
there's
but you
turns.
could, but you are braking in G outs. You're braking where the bike's gonna squat naturally. So it's like braking in a rhythm. But yeah, with like I've traditionally ran a pretty firm fork as well. So I think that's also why like I've used a lot of front brake, and then yeah, it's just I don't know, it's just how I've always been.
Man, we gotta.
And then also riding moto, I feel like you use your front brake differently just to like stay in ruts and stuff like that. Like I will use my front brake in corners to stay in a rut and to hold in corners to get my fork to dive a little bit to gain traction. So
yeah, I feel like I guess I'm stood up enough maybe and rearward enough that there isn't as much weight probably on my front wheel compared to your riding style. So maybe that's why I'm hesitant to use my front brake as much, just because it's lighter and moving more, or it's more easily influenced by heavier front braking. I don't know. I think in general, I don't know. I got to get to the bottom of this and figure it out. I think everybody out there is going to have some crazy opinions on it, but like, it'd be really neat with, I mean, take Loic or somebody who pulls all of the data forever on how he's riding his bike and all of that. Be really curious what the percent breakdown is for like an athlete like that. Maybe Dakotah actually knows. I mean, he's running enough telemetry. But yeah, I don't know. People should go on the site and get in the forum. There's a pretty good forum about brake talk. I actually haven't scrolled through it in a while because it's getting a little out there and I'm not that invested in brakes, but I guess maybe I am now. But I don't know if people have been talking too much about rotor size and braking points front and rear.
Yeah.
I'm sure Charlie Spons is going to listen to this and have a freaking heyday in the comments. He has opinions on that.
Yeah, the other person that's like a really heavy rear braker is Jack Moore. So he's like the same way as, but I don't see Troy as being like super heavy on the rear brake too much.
He's a hard one to read because he's so calculated and precise when he rides.
Just very neutral.
Yeah, super neutral, pumps the bike a lot. Very like you could almost draw a hard line on tracks of where he's braking and where he's not because he looks so precise. But I mean, I think the key with him too is that he's not pushing the front end as much with as powerful or as grabby of a front brake. Which maybe that's really the more important aspect of it than just like, I mean, heat is a big one as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Mavens are supposed to dissipate heat super well though, so I don't know. All right, it's enough brake talk. Let's see. Scrolling down, I have quick notes here. The drone shots were way better this weekend, I thought.
Yes.
To where we started in Fort William and
they
got a little bit better pulling. There were some weird ones
up in the air there, but
literally.
It was nice to see the whole track. I mean, I feel like we saw almost the entire track.
Yeah, totally. And
with that Zeppelin shot,
I would say that Leogang being a track that we've gone to for so long, the filming has been good for a while. It's always been a pretty good, like, whatever the reasons are, they're able to film so much of it. And the drone's nice because, I mean, they still had cameras on the motorway now that I think about it. But if they got that drone dialed, you wouldn't necessarily need that. But regardless, like, really the upper bit is where they didn't have any cameras, I don't believe, until you
first corner and then then it cut to drone.
Yeah, it cut the drone, then you cut all the way to that like man-made rock waterfall section into the right.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty, I mean, that's more or less the whole first split.
Yeah.
Or it is the whole first split, I believe. But regardless, I think you got to see it worked out. It looked good. I was stoked on it. I wasn't halfway through being like, oh my God, another shot that's just absolutely useless.
I think the biggest challenge of this weekend with the filming was just not having enough time with the gaps with the riders.
Yeah.
So some riders, you only saw a little bit of their run.
Yeah, I haven't dove into the math of how all of that breaks down with as you get further or deeper into the start list, the gaps get bigger between riders, and why, like, yes, we see most of full runs, but like in elite women's, when I watch the replay back, I'm pretty sure Anna Newkirk's run, you catch her quite a ways down, like on the motorway. And like hindsight, knowing she gets second, it's like, oh, it would have been so great to see what she did up top. But I guess we'll just catch her from where we're catching her here. And they do some weird things, like the whole cutting to interviews with riders that aren't even relevant anymore is super bad.
That and the cutting to a section, like a replay mid-run. They did that quite a few times. The mid-run replay. I was like,
yeah, this isn't.
You could show that literally just after they come through the finish line.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the run's it's super short. Like, you don't need to, exactly. You don't need it in the moment. Let's just keep running with it. But small complaints aside, I think it's getting pretty good. It's not bad. Josh Carlson in the booth.
Killed it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of his. I've read some mixed reviews online, but he's stoked and excited, but it does feel fairly genuine. And so it's hard for me to like knock it. And I think he'll slowly dial in the knobs of how stoked he is and when. And I mean, I was thinking about it because I mean, he was a pro rider for a while doing enduro. I've met him just a handful of times. He's a super genuinely nice guy.
Teammates with him at one point.
That's a stretch, but I rode a giant at the same time. But having to step into a booth after Rob Warner all those years, he's somebody that is such a fan of the sport. He's not unaware of the shoes he's trying to fill, and I'm sure he's in his own head about how he wants to portray the sport and be a commentator, and he's not trying to like be the new Rob Warner per se. So from that standpoint, I was like, good on him. It was sick.
Yeah, you did good. Aaron crushed it as usual.
And Rachel as well for women's.
Yeah. And then, I think that's all they had in there.
Oh, I think my one note with commentators is I like that we're pulling in these pro athletes, but at some point, maybe starting next year, it needs to settle in my mind, because the commentators is such a component to how you digest the race and like like the ebbs and flows of the emotions as the race happens, and you need consistent people. Even just going from Rick to Josh this round was a little like, Josh has been a part of the broadcast this season, so you kind of know his personality, you can kind of follow it, but I think if they settle on somebody or one or two people, would be nice.
Yeah, it's kind of like where Supercross was at for a little bit with when they'd like pull Adam Sansarillo in, and then now they've got James and Ricky. It's kind of settled on those two and Wygant, but yeah, they definitely need to build some consistency in there. Yeah,
which they'll get to it. I'm sure it'll happen at some point. Before these next few notes, something that I was reading on the site this morning, and I actually did see this in Win TV, is Valley mentioned potential for 15 rounds next year, and then Spellmore chimed in that he's heard maybe more in the like 13 round ballpark, but it's more let's throw a bunch of names into the hat and hope that a few get picked, maybe more than 8 like we have this year, but who knows.
I've heard 13 to 15 from people in the
know.
Yeah, I know even Nico said it in him and Elliot's podcast, so yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet. I would not be opposed to it. I mean, Spellmore had a good point, just that say you add a handful of rounds, the cost for teams goes up quite a bit to attend all of those. But I think a lot of that does come down to when and where they are in relation to other rounds. You know, like you're going to save a lot of cost if they're more back-to-back in the same region. Even this stint right now from Leogang to Val di Sole to Leger, pretty realistic. It's a lot easier than bouncing between even just like the UK and then going back to Europe or going to the US and Canada.
Yeah. I mean, even the region that you're in, like Poland, it was probably a fairly cheap round for most teams compared to more places like Leogang where it's a little more expensive, or like not going to Switzerland. Like that saves a lot of money.
For sure.
We know that one.
God. Yeah. No, it is very true. I mean, it'll be Spilmer mentioned that maybe this weekend there'll be more announcements on it. It's funny, I read his comment and it said 2025. And my first thought was like, that's like 2 years out though. Like, wait a minute. We're like deep into 24, but 2025 still doesn't sound very real in my mind.
Yeah. Well, and then also going along with that is the rumor of no semifinals and the rumor of cutting down the field. So meaning less teams, but hopefully meaning sponsor budgets spread more, let's say lusciously across the board there.
Yeah.
A little more money for each team, having less teams. And I know people are all in the fight of like privateers in the sport kind of thing. I mean, I got my picture right there, but me crashing my way down Leogang. But let's be realistic. This is a professional sport. People need to be paid. So you can't pay everybody. At least pay the people that deserve to be paid.
Yeah, I'm more on board with that thought for sure. I think if you keep the cost barrier to entry realistic, so that if somebody goes through the steps to like have the points, they can try to qualify. I think that we already, even right now with 30 elite men and 10 elite women, you're getting the best of the best, and you still do get each round at least a name in there that, you know, whatever you want to call it, they probably have some budget that's helping them get to them, but compared to the people winning the races, it's a huge gap. And so, I mean, even
between Loic and Loic.
Yeah, that's a great one too. Totally. Yeah, I mean, like that team's getting by, but it is not very comparable.
Chances of Loic getting a paycheck that actually pays for him to pay rent and all that is probably pretty low.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I agree that doing, I don't know, like maybe not, I don't really mind how many people show up necessarily. I mean, this weekend was a great example. Leogang had like a massive
192 men.
Yeah, it's insane.
Trying to qualify.
Yeah. But we still only take 30, you know? And I keep hearing more and more the going to some sort of B final or, you know, more like a last chance qualifier where it's perfect because it doesn't, you're giving privateers or whatever you want to call them a chance without affecting the, you know, premium riders in each class. So I think that's sick. And just like sport in general with how fast juniors are from just the junior category becoming so developed is really rad to see. Like it's only getting more competitive and will continue to go that way. So yeah, like it does need to cater more towards the upper riders in each class, you know? And I think people will still continue to kind of rise through that. Like,
I think the funny thing is the junior finals are for free on YouTube, but none of the elite finals. And to me, that just seems kind of odd because I'm like, okay, we're promoting the juniors more than we're actually promoting the real show.
There's a lot of weird stuff with that whole thing because like last year's semifinals it seemed like it was sold as like here's a free bone to like be able to watch World Cup racing without having to pay for it. And then it was like, okay, I kind of understand why we're doing semifinals. And then like that gets pulled this year and everyone's like, what the hell is this? But yeah, I mean they do recaps, I guess, of each race for the elite classes.
And they show the top run.
Yep. But no, you're right. I mean, on one hand, I'm like stoked. It's cool that younger riders, new names that'll probably be something in the next 2 or 3 years get coverage. But I would have to imagine that the overall interest in elite World Cup downhill racing has dropped from Red Bull days 2 years ago till now. Or it leaves people's avenues to get information on racing not watching the actual racing. I mean, even like our podcast, I'm sure there's people out there that listen to this just to kind of get filled in on what happened over the weekend. That, and then Win TVs and, you know, all the vlogs that come out, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I do see people saying like, oh, I'm not watching anymore and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're really just doing a disservice to a sport that you love if you actually do like riding mountain bikes and like racing and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the point of view a lot of people have is being frustrated with the people organizing the races. And so like, well, I'm not going to give them money, but like there isn't another avenue for the racers and teams and the industry and the brands there's no other platform. So.
Yeah. And don't tell me that Crankworks is taking over World Cup racing, because that circus is just a circus. It's not a true thing. You know, same thing with the hardline. Like hardline's a circus. Like,
Tanner hates Crankworks and hardline. You heard that here first.
They have their place, but it's not the elite of the elite.
It seems like the more PC way to put that. They have their spot. They have their slice of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Crankworks, I wish would be bigger than it is, but that's a whole other topic. I don't want to open that can of worms. Okay, let's keep moving on. Electronic suspension. We were starting to talk about that before we pressed record. So the topic of the year, let's just say, that's the biggest thing everybody wants to talk about. And this weekend, again, a track that is a track of two tails, maybe three tails, like with how it's so split up and diverse as you move down. And so sort of, we'll let this take us into our Maxxis make or break section as well. But Loic obviously won. I do want to point out that he won the race in the last two sectors, like the bottom bit of the track, which I think everybody is so focused on, lockouts, the benefit of making up time on the flat sections, the motorway. But I think your point and my point kind of is like, well, if you have different settings, you're not having to pick a setup for one way or the other. And he can have his bike working really good in every part of the track. Like he can have his bike set up really good for the bottom bit, where he basically didn't win the race, but definitely had an advantage and was way faster than everybody else. And he can have his bike working really well up top, where it's like smooth, fast, rolling speed.
Yeah, it's, I think to go along with that is he used less energy on the motorway. He had more energy for the bottom, where you don't want to be cross-eyed, trying to pick your way down hard pack, slimy ruts. So I think that's where he was able to make up a lot of time, is not being tired for that section. And the same thing with, Finn Isles in second. He didn't even really ride on Saturday, and then come Sunday gets second. So that, I don't know. I think it just shows that the lockouts or the platforms are really good for a track like this, and that, you know, other suspension companies are actually behind what Specialized and Olin's have going. And you basically, not saying you can't win against them on a track of this nature, but it's going to be very difficult to beat a bike that can be set up for 3 different tracks all at once.
Yeah, I was less behind the whole, you have to have the electronics to have an advantage now. Like at Fort William, especially with everybody on the podium up until Dakotah having some sort of lockout, suspension changing platform thing, everybody was like, sold. That's it. That's why they won the race. And I think there's way more factors at play, especially with like the Specialized crew. I mean, just the time that Loic in particular has had with the systems he's using, whatever they might be, and then the knowledge of his mechanic behind him. I think those matched with another year on the bike, Loic is clearly feeling good. Like, like all those things, even Finn for that matter, like Finn's riding super well. Him and his mechanic have been together for a decade now. Like all those things are, we can talk about Dakotah even. He's switched teams again. He's on a new bike. Like they have a lot less extra thoughts going on around their program. And then you tack on a system and advantage that they've figured out how to really make work. Like,
I mean, I think for a track like this, though, where it was so greasy in the woods, but it was dry everywhere else, basically. Like a little bit greasy in the stumps, but otherwise it was dry on the motorway, pretty dry up top. By the time last few guys went down, it would make a huge difference to have a platform that you can set up softer for that wood section and be able to hold traction through the grease, while others are kind of like, oh, I need to set up my bike to be stiff here. I mean, like Ronan's bike was set up pretty stiff, traditionally is set up pretty stiff. And I mean, he made a mistake in the stumps and continued to make some mistakes in the lower section. Still had a decent run in 13th, I believe, but it was his bike wasn't set up for the entire track.
Yeah. I mean, looking on Roots and Rain right now.
Like,
I was gonna say, looking at Roots and Rain, and they do theirs by sectors versus splits. So instead of it being how much time it took for the person to get to each split, this is just how much time they spent in each sector added up, which I think is a way better way to compare who is fast where. It's a lot easier to like look at and digest. So like looking at Ocean in O'Callaghan in 4th, he was 2nd and 3rd at the last 2 sectors. So he was basically he was faster than Finn, faster than Benoit right behind him. But he
was a second and a half slower in the motorway.
Exactly. So like that's one where you could guess that he probably set his bike up or focused a bit more on the bottom. And who knows, maybe looking at his splits, he got 4th, right? So he had a good run top to bottom, regardless of he got 16th in the first sector, 19th in the 3rd. But, he's still competitive as far as times go. Everything was just really tight. But like compared to Loic, dude, like he lost time in the first split, almost a whole second. And then on the motorway, lost a second and a half. And like, there's no way you're going to pull that back in the bottom.
And I will say, like, someone like Dak, who's real smart with his setup, I would say, don't want to pat you on the back too much, Dak, but set up his bike probably pretty neutral and consistent throughout the whole run. And it shows in his splits where he was 12, 12, 10, 13 for 14th overall. Like, was pretty much even throughout. His bike was probably not great anywhere. It seemed like he didn't go fast on the motorway, probably because he was set up for that lower section more so. So he couldn't actually shine where he usually shines.
Yeah, and I would agree. Like, I think that let's call the motorway the last third of the woods the last third of the track. So the upper 2/3 is longer, but there's a lot less chance to do something great and make a bunch of time because it is very one-lined, where that lower woods, the list of people in each category that crashed is so high. Like, it does almost make more sense to cater your like whole approach between bike setup and your race run for that last bit, because I mean, Lucas Shaw is a prime example. Like, he was basically, was he actually first going into the woods? I mean, he was
in his run, he was, I think, winning going into the woods.
Yeah. And then didn't really actually go down, just had an offline, slow, kind of meandering mistake. And that's what lost it for him. And I mean, he is one that has electronics on his bike. And I think that mistake maybe wasn't up to bike setup entirely, but,
But they also have far less time with those electronics than Loic has. Loic's had it for 2 years now or something. Been working on it.
No, that's a good point. But I guess you got to give a shout out to Lockie in third, just
Dude,
running it OG.
Yeah.
And his lower woods, even though he wasn't fastest, were so loose, like so sick. It was like probably like watching him compared to Loic is such a contrast. And even though they're going about the same speed based on time, yeah, it's pretty tight. Yeah. The what do you think about Val di Sole this weekend? If people will have as much of a use for the different lockouts or different, damping settings you can achieve with those systems?
I think it'll be more so along the lines of Poland, where it's not going to make a big difference. You could possibly, for the top bit, open turns, you kind of hit that roller, like the scrub fadeaway roller start going to the woods. But other than that, I don't see it really playing in too much. But I mean, we've had Leogang on the circuit for 15 years now. So like tracks like that are not going away. Fort Bill's not going away. So I would say that for someone at a suspension company to say that the different platforms and being able to adjust on the fly suspension adjustments not being something they're going to invest in is them just lying to the camera.
Yeah, I mean I would like to ride it, like I've ridden flight attendant on different bikes and it's pretty cool,
I ride Scott bikes, so I have
all the levers.
I have lockouts and I have the twin lock and I use it all the time. You watch Nino Schurter, he now has flight attendant, but before, if you watched him racing cross country, he's always just like hitting the switches.
Yeah, I mean it definitely has its place, Yeah, time will tell. One of these days everybody's gonna be so happy because the cover's gonna come off Loic's bike. We're all gonna know what the heck is going on in there.
Nothing there.
Yeah,
it's just a shock.
It's just some wires. Yeah. Ooh.
It doesn't even have a shock, actually. It's a leaf spring.
That'd be bananas. Yeah. The controller unit on his bike, somebody figured it out that it's pretty much just like a dirt or like a street bike controller, more or less. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. I didn't look into it that much, but people, if you go into our forums, people were talking about it pretty heavily about what it actually is. Yeah, I just put in a photo of a original Xbox controller because that's what it makes me think of. It's so big and bulky for what it seems like it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to beat the flight attendant stuff because it's just their little pod controller, which looks pretty mean.
Yeah, I would assume that he has the one on the other side too. It's just like an open close. The one on the right side, left side has all of the stuff, and then he just has an open close on the right side just in case he gets into a predicament and needs to hit it. Otherwise, I'm like, dude, he's got equations. He's that meme of the woman with the equations and stuff. So, like, which wouldn't put it past me. The dude has a master's degree, so like,
it's true. You know what? I keep seeing people mention or comment that like, oh well, all those buttons, like it takes time to like. I think we probably talked about on the one podcast even that like it takes time to kind of know what each one does. Or in a race run, you don't want extra things to think about. I think that's BS because even for like our ability we were at, when you're in a race run, you can think about so many things in a moment, and thinking about a button to press in a split second, not that hard. We've been shifting for years. You know what I mean?
Especially, let's just say a track like Leogang, where you hop out of the stumps and you're sprinting, and then you have that big jump. You can hit it in the air. You can pull tear-offs in the air. If you can pull a tear-off in the air, or if you can think to pull a tear-off, you can press a button.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't, that doesn't seem like the most complex thing to me, especially, I mean, think about shifting in a race run. Usually you figure out where you're going to shift and how much before your race run. It's the same thing with that. You add in, I mean, even the track like Leogang, like you're saying, say he hits a button out of the stumps into the motorway, hits a button, as we got a clip of on our Instagram from our slow-mo. He hits the button going into the wall ride. Maybe that's it. Maybe he hits a button after he comes through like those gross ruts before the
Yeah.
sprint into the jump. It's 3 buttons, and
Mhm.
maybe he's shifted like 3 or 4 times as well. It's not too complex to me, but
I mean, you could also hit the button after, like, through the tunnel at the top, the second tunnel. You hit there going into the stumps, and if you wanted to, like, there's so many chances.
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say Loic has great thumb dexterity. He can hit those buttons.
Dude's got good thumbs.
Yeah, or like somebody was saying in our forums that they just program it. They just do during practice to figure out where they want it to change, and then they just that cool little box behind his number plate that's the brain. It just does it for him.
That's what we talked about on one of the podcasts when we were talking about the shifting and stuff.
Yeah.
So when we realized that the gearbox bikes were very far from the podium, but so, except for Mike Huter, shout out.
It's true. We'll get there. Yeah. I mean, Finn in his race run pedaled in the air after the wall ride. I think that was Finn who did that to like shift down a gear or two.
Yeah, that's what I was watching for actually, was because I pedal a lot. I think if you watched any of my race runs, you'd see I pedal a lot in race runs, but I would always know like my shift points, my brake points, as we talked about earlier, braking in a straight line. Like
where you're going to use your front brake and where you're going to shift.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah, I mean, I can like remember plenty of tracks like where exactly I would shift. I mean, even coming out of like a gate, and depending on how much distance you have, like how many cranks you're going to get before something starts happening, like you kind of got to decide what gear you want to be in. Like and those things they're one little piece of the puzzle, and they're not that complex. So adding another element doesn't seem too crazy to me. So I don't know. Okay, moving on. Last note, should we bitch about money again? We like to talk about money at least every other podcast, but it seemed like a topical.
I think a lot of people were talking about it this weekend. For some reason, I don't know why it comes out at certain times, but the Win TV was very heavy on it.
I think that's why, because they caught Valley as she was getting her money.
Yeah. That and the water on the podium for the juniors.
What?
Yeah, juniors had sparkling water instead of champagne or sparkling grape juice. Yeah.
Wait, sparkling water?
Yeah.
Did it still spray? Like, is it?
They didn't spray it. I don't think I didn't see any of them spray it, but it was kind of funny to see like literally a bottle of water on the podium. Like, you know, when they walk up and there's like the champagne on their steps and stuff. So yeah, there was just water. It was kind of funny.
What's the drinking age in Europe? Is it not 18?
Yeah, but juniors are 16, 17.
I guess that's true. There's probably not a lot that are 18, huh?
Yeah. So that was quite comical. The money thing, I don't know. I've got like mixed feelings about it. I think I've got mixed feelings about it, knowing how big bonuses are in Supercross and in outdoors and stuff like that. I don't know.
Even in bikes, I think bonuses pay pretty decent if you're actually on the podium, you know?
Yeah.
So like, oh, sorry, I meant from like sponsors. Not
like sponsor bonuses. And I mean, it would be nice to see the prize money at least at like $5,000 for a win instead of 37.50. And for juniors, 200 euros. Like, come on.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like giving out someone a set of tires for a win. Like,
that could almost be worth more depending on what tires.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something. I don't know. Like maybe once they cut down the field and they bring in less money from registration, the prize money will somehow go up.
You know, that almost makes sense for some weird reason, you know? Yeah. I mean, as we kind of discovered in one of our podcasts, and I think I did cut that out, or chat with John, just because it was a little long, but it's like, what, 600 grand or something to host a World Cup?
650 Swiss francs to host a World Cup. This is, I sent the rule book to you guys, but yeah, if we can probably find that again if you want to post that with this podcast, just like that section of the rule book.
Maybe I should, just so I don't get lit up.
Yeah, it was insane because Yeah, like 650 Swiss francs. That's probably close to $1 million in US. Yeah,
Sure
let's see.
seems like a lot of money.
No, it's 724,000. That's not, man. That's like a average home price in Texas or something.
That's just a World Cup
Yeah.
in 2024. Yeah.
So, if anyone's ever wondering why there aren't more rounds, wonder no further.
Apparently, we're gonna have more though. So
Yeah.
somebody's putting up some money.
So it's making sense when you get less money from registration, you'll have more prize money.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for like a World Cup in Dubai or something.
Dude, at the line, just starts at the top of that new like crazy thing.
Yeah, it seems like the next logical step.
Yeah. What do we got next on here?
It's way cheaper than that suspension service your bike desperately needs, or less of a hassle than finally replacing those C-frame bearings you said you would swap after last winter? Slapping on some crispy, fresh Maxxis tires. Doesn't matter if you've got a month-old whip that came with some questionable rubber, or you're still rolling around on 26-inch wheels like it's 2013, Maxxis has got you covered. The tires of choice for the world's fastest racers. Whether they're sponsored by Maxxis or not, you can visit your local shop or favorite online retailer to get the same tread patterns and compounds. UK components brand Burgtec has long designed and developed components for racers and everyday riders alike. Well known as the cockpit of choice for shredders like Veronique Sandler and Josh Bryceland, they recently picked up the Trek Factory DH squad and the Yeti Cycles team. So look for Richie Rude, Mick Hanna, Loris Vergier, and Sacha Ernest all racing this season with the signature white and yellow Burgtec badge. But I do have to warn you though, as the Burgtec website is honestly a euphoric dark trap of mountain bike componentry. It's hard to leave without finding something you didn't know your bike badly needed. Anodized UDH hangers and axles? Yep. Titanium frame bolts? Of course. Offset shock bushings? Add to cart. A true one-stop shop for all the finer details and contact points on your bike. Make sure to check everything out at burgtec-usa.com.
Hot off the press, Industry 9 just launched their new Hydra Grade 300 V2 aluminum wheel set built for downhill racing, bike park smashing, and e-bike ripping. The rim features i9's triple cavity hollow beadwall technology that significantly reduces pinch flats, increases impact resistance, and minimizes beadwall deformation in the event of a harsh impact. Dubbed the strongest aluminum rim Industry 9 has ever created, the Grade 300 V2 wheels are only offered in a 32 spoke count and a 27.5, 29, and mixed wheeled configuration, and retail for $1,430. Check them out if you're looking for some problem-free wheels that can handle a serious beating. I guess we've kind of covered the Maxxis make or break section. We've talked quite a bit about the track. I think overall, I will say Leogang is a sick track nowadays. Like the slight little changes they did up top was cool. I think the woods always is such a factor now on the bottom. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think the problem is now with the track is it's like, I know we said in the previous show it's not super bike parky or whatever, but I think that lower wood section has been ran too many years where it is really bike parky now because it has so many tires that have ridden it and it's pretty blue groove.
What? I feel like it's super gnarly though.
It's super gnarly, but there's like two defined lines in every section. And it's pretty hard pack. They need to like keep moving the track as they've done at Val di Sole in the past, is like kind of shift the track a little bit. And so that you do have like fresh cut sections.
Yeah. I think that it would be a different story if it didn't rain this year. I think having it rain helps chew it up a bit more, but I think the nature of their dirt is that it dries up quick. So it does get hard packed, but then like the woods this year were super tough because it's still slippery on top.
Yeah, which is pretty bike parky. Like if you ride Whistler when it rains, it gets slick. Like if it's raining hard, it's slick on top in the steep sections.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know if they really have a way of getting, even if you make it say you move the track over 5 feet all the way down, I think throughout a weekend, it would still end up very similar.
Yeah.
Because they did put in a whole new straightaway and it didn't look any different than the parts above or below it,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wish they would run the track off the top instead of going out to the stumps. let's just do some off cambers in the open field.
Just down
Like-
the big ass grass field.
Dude, like we all know, like the way that the hill is set up, they go out and around and it kind of dog legs back on the motorway. Like
Mhm.
we could cut out half that motorway, off camber world champs. Just yeah. Dude, all right, if you watch the old Ed Bull media, he's got some like off camber footage from race day in the
Mhm.
morning, and it looked hectic. It was
It
so
did.
loose, and like I mean, we saw so many people go down there, and especially in I want to say junior racing, and
Mhm.
there was like 3 people in a row, I want to say, in elite men that went down in the off camber.
There were a few. Yeah, I mean, it was you're hauling ass into it, and then if you don't
Well-
catch the rut just right, oh my god, it looks
And
slippery.
it came off the road right before.
That section was really cool.
Yeah.
And then right when after they would off camber, and then they would get around the little
Yeah.
pylon, and then they'd kind of like
Go into
natural
your
gaps,
rocks.
like gap into like the bike park again, and then yeah, the whole section was good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I don't really mind it because the track makes for good racing, even though the bottom
Mhm.
maybe is unique in some of those ways. And then you do have the flip side of Val di Sole or other tracks that you kind of get that flavor. I'm not saying that. I still think it'd be cool if they just rerouted it some. Like I don't know how hard that is to do, like where that part of the track is, like without really
Mhm.
seeing like what's around it, you know? But
I
don't
feel
know.
like they've got to have some sort of regulations with where they can run the track.
Mhm.
I don't know. I can't remember. I want to say there was cows grazing on that hillside the year that I was there. So they probably can't run it in that section, or like in certain sections of the hillside because it is all clear cut.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, overall, I still like it.
I think it has its place on the circuit. And
Yeah,
I don't
for
think
sure.
anyone's going to argue that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, it would be interesting to have like a true dry year, what that bottom bit would be like. I mean, I guess we have seen that in years past, like years past before last year was dry. But even if you go back to like the original lower section, it always was hard packed and fast and like bit of a slot car track, but it still was exciting. And the times were tight this year, but there still was some differences, you know, like a bit more separating people. Obviously, Loic was way up, and I mean, Valley absolutely crushed everybody in juniors, but maybe behind those two standouts, like it was still exciting. It was still good racing.
Yeah, I always find it interesting that it kind of goes in little groupings. Like there was a lot of people on the 308. There was 3 people on 308, and then 3 people on 309, and then there was a gap to 311 where there was 4 people, and then 312, and then there was a gap from 314 to 316.
Yeah. No, it's the women's goes a similar way. We have like a few people on the same within a few, like a second and a half. And then there's like a big stretch back, and that is nuts. It is. It's always shitty when you're racing and you end up on one of those seconds, but you're on like the back end of it, and you're like, gosh darn it. Yeah. I mean, I feel like even Dakotah was kind of on that because he's like on a 312. If he would have gone like a second faster, he would have been up like 3 or 4 positions. But
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get into talking about Val di Sole maybe a little bit at the end of this because that's what's coming up starting tomorrow. But let's move on to race recap. Try to breeze through this and hit what matters since we're a little bit behind the curve on just the race being over and we're going right into Val di Sole. So junior women, Arise van Leuven finally took her first win of the season. It's cool to see her come back at Leogang after having that gnarly slam onto the first road crossing last year. Like good redemption, dominating victory. He was like 4.7 seconds up on everybody else. So that was really cool to see. Second, Ellie Holzbosch. Fastest qualifier. Kind of lost it in that lower wood section like a lot of people. But I think she's got momentum and proving it to herself that she can be up there. And, you know, there's this whole group of junior women from New Zealand, and really it could be any name that's fastest out of them on a given weekend.
Yeah, they've been killing it. Aris rides and trains with Valley and Lisa Bauman.
Yep,
and it's really showing. She looks real confident right now. So
she looks a lot less wild than last year.
Yeah,
I think that's like the biggest thing, because last year she was really fast too, but it was like super unpredictable.
Yeah,
it was exciting. It was good to watch. Yep. Third place, Heather Wilson. Her winning streak does come to an end this season, but still on the podium. Looked solid. Like, it's cool to see a rider like that wasn't on our radar coming into the season and then is sick to watch. Like, it's really impressive how just the women's fields in general, if you do juniors and elites, their ability to hit jumps really fast now is like night and day difference of just 3 to 5 years ago. Like, it's nuts. And you see it with these girls coming up that like they whatever their background is, I feel like it almost doesn't matter. They're just like, the expectation is you can hit big ass jumps and like hit them with speed and have good style on them. It's pretty rad.
Yeah. Then Ella Fagby, I think it was her first World Cup.
Dude, on Roots and Rain, this is her
One
only race. Yeah. I tried to do my digging on Instagram and Roots and Rain like usual for riders like this that I've never heard of, and not a whole lot of information out there.
She's done races in Sweden, it looked like, or somewhere.
Where she's from, right?
Yeah. So she's done races up there, but doesn't look like she's done any IXS Cups, any World Cups, anything like that. She did have videos on her Instagram, like riding in the snow. Just like kind of wild. If you've ever ridden in the snow, it's not easy.
It's also terribly cold.
Yeah. Fun fact, it is really cold. And you don't know what you're riding over. So yeah, apparently that pays off for slippery mud. So yeah. And then I mean, there's a couple Americans in the final. Tilly Melton in Washington, and then Kale Cushman. So that's always cool. Sasha Ernest had a bit of crash, unfortunately.
Yeah, Sasha Mills, back in fifth.
Yeah,
best result of the year. I didn't realize she was coming back from injury. They mentioned in the broadcast on like a broken collarbone. So, because she was a little hot and cold last year, but definitely showed some potential. So cool to see her back up there as well. And then the other Sacha, Ernest, was killing it up until crashing at the bottom. Classic Leogang, what could have been in the lower woods. Whole list of names in there. So fastest onto the motorway. So that second sector. So and then moving on to junior men. Let's go over overalls. I was gonna say, if anyone's been listening to our pre-race shows we do with John Hall as part of Vitals Fantasy, because this week is so tight with back-to-back races, I figured we would just kind of cover that in this as well. So overall, going to this weekend for junior women, Heather Wilson holds on to first. Aris moves up to second. Ellie Holzbosch is in fourth. Sacha Ernest drops from second to fourth. Or wait, did I have that written wrong? Sorry. Ellie Holzbosch is in third. Sacha Ernest drops from second to fourth, and then Tilly Melton remains in fifth, tied in points with Sacha Ernest. And then, so we'll give some kind of predictions going into this weekend as part of Vitals Fantasy. I'll give a little spiel real quick in case you haven't been playing or you don't know what it is. I feel like a little bit of a broken record, but I want people to play because it is fun. And it's something we put a lot of effort into getting going for this season. So if you haven't played yet, all you have to do is have a Vital account. It's free to play. You get to make a new team each round. You have to have at least one rider from all 4 categories. And basically each round, the top 5 players from that weekend will win prizes from SRAM and RockShox, FSA, Maxxis, and Trolley Designs. And at the end of the year, Whoever has the highest overall points, top 5, will get prizes as well. And the points are the same as the points paid in finals to the riders. So kind of talked a bit about strategy here or there. I think in general, picking more of your elites pays off more because there's more points at stake. They do cost more than juniors, but juniors, a win's only 60 points, which is like in the teens for elite men's and maybe like a 7th or 8th or something for elite women's. Okay, covering some just quick ones here for pre-Val di Sole for junior women's. Going to keep being the battle of the Kiwis with Aris Ellie and Sacha Ernest, plus Heather Wilson. I think it's kind of a mix of who of those is going to be fast. Last year, Sacha Ernest, though, won by 12 seconds over everybody, including Aris. So I think she'll probably be quite fast. That's a lot of confidence to bring back to a venue. And then, yeah, going to kind of keep being fun to watch Aris climb out of her overall deficit. I think she's still kind of like the rider to win the overall, or should in my mind, but not having maybe like a perfect start to the season, gaining that momentum. Be cool to see her this weekend. And then, like you mentioned, the Americans with Tilly and Kale. So
yeah, I think Tilly she's kind of just been consistent, which is something that's really good for a first-year junior. So I think she's gonna do pretty well. She is from Bellingham, I believe, so is definitely used to riding steep stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff. I'm stoked to watch it. It's fun being invested in these junior classes. Junior men. Max Alran takes his first World Cup win, man.
Yep.
Moves up to 4th in the overall. Has a pretty good bounce back after his slam in Poland, where he tried to like check his front tire pressure like Max Morgan. And it seems like Max and Till, his brother, are just switching off every weekend with like who crashes out and who has a good weekend. So at this rate, Till will probably win Val di Sole. But
Max has a sick style. Like
they
he's
both do.
so calm and like I
Mhm.
don't know.
Why does everybody in the comments all look the same? You notice that?
Dude, no, I feel like he looks different. Like I will say that
That wasn't meant.
Emery,
Yeah.
like all the elites look the same, but then yeah, it's like he kind of looks more so along the lines of Dooley, like Austin Dooley, that kind of style of Commensal maybe. But there's 2 different styles.
They kind of are.
There's like the muck off style where it's just, and the Dorval, which is just charging.
And
then
a lot of
there's
elbows. Elbows are very wide.
Yeah.
Flat back.
Yep. And then there's like the IC Studio style, like Thomas Stack, Antoine Piron, and Ugo and Mateo Iniguez. Those guys. More stood up, kind of like chilling, maybe like kind of small bars.
Yeah, I'd say a bit more knees. Like where the muck-off teams and Dorval, like their elbows are really pronounced and like that's like their attack, but like from like their hips and stuff are real squared. Where like the other riders, they swing off a bit more, where you got like a bit more knee swag going on.
Yeah.
I'm into both of them, to be fair. Like everybody on Commensals looks pretty good. Like there was that whole stint forever where like if you weren't on a team, you were just on a Commensal, and
us included.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, their bikes are still proving themselves, you know. So
yeah, yeah, definitely a sick style. His run, him on the motorway looked so relaxed.
Yep. Dane Jewett, second, back-to-back podiums, pretty cool. Takes over the leaders jersey with Asa crashing out and having his whole red flag incident. But I think we've talked a lot about just confidence and momentum this year, and I think Dane is one of those individuals that's proving the power of that.
Okay, you just brought up Max Morgan in the tire pressure check. Does Dane Jewett not remind you of Max Morgan?
He does a little bit.
Like
very
his face and like
very well spoken.
Yeah,
calculated word choice. Yeah, I would agree. I could listen to Dane. Feels like a kid who's way older than he is.
Yes,
like he's very professional, but not in a boring way. Yeah, and he has to be so eager to win. Like being in the leaders jersey without a win this season, like I would expect him to just be absolutely swinging off of it in Val di Sole.
Yeah.
So that'll
Yeah.
be cool to see.
And he's on the new bike, so
Yeah, I kind of noticed that. I think they all are.
yeah, they all are now. And I want to say he was not on the new bike at Fort William. Yeah.
Mhm.
He was on the old
I'm drawing
bike.
a blank of their other junior because I don't think he was either.
Ryan Griffiths.
Yeah,
I
because
believe.
he's tall and he looked
Yeah.
massive on their current production bike. So, and he definitely was on the new one as well. So,
yeah.
so,
and I don't think he was on the new bike at Poland either. Yep, looking at photos, he was not on the new. They weren't on the new bike at Poland, so this was first weekend on the new bike.
Zach, yeah. I mean, maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe instead of talking so much about electronic suspension, we should be talking about
jack shafts.
Yeah, all of those words.
Yeah, 2 chains, jack shafts, tie lugs, and
I don't know if I'm just like a hater or what, but like that bike to me doesn't always look like it works super well. But then I have to balance it with Bernard has such a unique style that doesn't always look
bunny
like
on the bike.
Yeah, like it's such. I feel like racing has become a battle of who can stay glued to the ground the most, and like your bike's working a lot. Where Bernard's like so springy and poppy, and it's always hard to judge if that is because of their new bike or not. He's making it work. They kind of all are, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Watching it, it kind of reminds me of the old Norco, so which was known to murder people. So yeah,
it doesn't look real settled, but then at the same time, I could almost say that a bit about somebody like Troy in the way they ride, but Troy's a bit more balanced. Exactly. I think we talked about this before.
It looks like it kicks, and I don't like that in a bike, but I don't know. It seems to be working for them. So
yeah.
Hey man, not my circus.
Who are we to say? Anyways, we'll keep moving on. Mike Hooter in third. I was stoked on this. I think I had him on my fantasy team, which might have played a factor, but he was really fast in qualifying before he went down. And I think when we talked last week leading into Leogang, I thought he would be fast because he had been there before. He was fast in Poland before he crashed. Like it was all building. And so for him to get third, I'm sure felt great because he's kind of been right on the cusp and just things have been going wrong for him. So that was sick to see. He's the one on the is it the Gamics?
Yeah, the Gamics. Yeah. That bike looks I would like to ride one of those. It just looks interesting.
It has a Dorado,
Yeah.
You had me at upside down 4. I would say that bike, I don't mean
it reminds me of an old Balfa. Like
it doesn't always look like it's working great to me either. No. But again, who am I?
It doesn't, and that's why I want to ride it.
Yeah. I think Mike is fairly tall. He looks like a lankier rider. And so that's always tough to gauge reading a bike, I think, because you get like a lot more body movement sometimes. But anyways, good to see. Stoked for him. Luke Wayman in fourth. Consistency. Sits third in the overall. That's rad for the Kiwi. Milan Falquet.
Yep.
I'm saying that right. Then another good weekend. Would have been close for the win if he didn't slide out in those lower woods. Still sick to see.
And then we had Lucas Dodora.
Did I spell his last name wrong again?
I don't. Let me see. No, that's right.
All right.
Yeah, dude, pretty sick. American up there in 6th.
Yep. Yeah, first season. I think he had a 9th earlier this season, and then backs it up with besting that a 6th. Definitely sick to see. And on, I think Leogang's a tough track to go to. Even in the elites it gets tough because people have been there for so many years. But even in juniors, like your second year, that is such an advantage. So
I think it's a tough track, but probably better suited towards some of the American juniors. Just in terms of the track being broken up into segments, and that's how a lot of the American tracks are.
And not too rough.
Yeah, not too rough. Your bike setup probably works fairly well.
Mhm.
And then I think he's an East Coast kid. If he rides Windrock, that like greasy. If you ride Windrock in the winter, it gets real greasy. So, but yeah, it was definitely sick to see him up there. He's been building. Yeah, he's been into the finals for every round this year, which is sick.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Asa, I mentioned that he crashed out and then had this whole red flag incident where he thought he saw a red flag. Apparently, it was a red and white
Seagull.
beer flag. Yeah, which somebody in the Win TV had one of those flags like around their neck, and I'm like, man, they must have really been giving these things out.
Yeah.
Definitely a bummer. He qualified fastest by 3 seconds, which would have been 10th in elites, which is nuts. So I think it will be the same as Jet Lawrence at Hangtown, kind of crashing out in that first moto, and then everyone's like, is he going to come back? And he comes back and wins Thunder Valley. Like, I think Asa will be right on it. And Val di Sole, and his interview with Win was pretty telling as far as him just wanting there to be more tech and gnar, and he's like giddy over Val di Sole, which I think a lot of people are more like, okay, we gotta weather the storm that is Val di Sole. He's like juicing for it.
Yeah, dude, it is pretty wild though. Entering the woods, he was 10th, and then he stopped and lost pretty much 20 seconds.
Yeah,
in there, and then hit his last segment. He was 7th, and
was he really?
Yeah, so it and I was just cruising and throwing a really sick whip.
Oh, how can I not bring that up?
You reposted it.
I tried to screen record it when I was watching it on my phone on Sunday, but Max doesn't let you do that. It like cancels your screen recording. And I was like, man, I really wanted to post this. And then Sleeper Co. got, I swear, like 45 angles of it.
Dude.
It's like they radioed down and he was like, I'm going to do a big whip. I've watched it at least 50 times because I can't figure it out.
Well, so he does.
It's like a turn
towards his front foot, right?
Okay.
And
like he's left foot forward or he's right foot forward?
I believe he's. Let me see. I believe he's right foot forward. I will find this right now.
Everybody needs to go watch this clip.
So, yeah, he's right foot forward. So he turns up, front wheel up, right to the right, up to the right, and then folds in and whips it towards his front foot. And so he like when he goes up and then folds down and pulls it straight down, and it looks so good.
It's the weight leaned off the side of the bike that makes it look not like a normal mountain bike whip. That is so sick. And he like when he turns the bike back down, his rear wheel goes like above his head.
Yeah,
that right there, I was like, all right, he's the future.
Yeah, he turned it down like right at the perfect time, right as his front wheel almost was at the top of the peak.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite. So then the back wheel kept traveling up.
It's so cool. It's not often I see something and I'm like, it gets me really stoked on mountain bicycles.
And that jump is just, it's not I don't know. There was another Austrian kid that had an insane whip as well. Just a real big to the back foot whip. And yeah, that jump's not great. It's a
Valley had a sick whip. Valley had a really good whip
in semis or qualifying or something
like that. I don't know. I saw it on the internet, on the interwebs at some point, and I was like, "Shit, that was sick." Yeah. Okay, where were we? Oh yeah, so Asa had a pretty shit weekend, but I think he's going to bounce back and be really fast this weekend. And in the overall, it only moves him 5 points out of first. He's in second.
Yeah,
behind
he was way too chill. Like, after that.
I feel like he almost like it probably will help him with the pressure of coming in his first season and winning both of the first rounds in pretty dominating fashion. And there's probably a different type of pressure now. Like, can he bounce back? But to have a weekend that just shows things can happen to him. Because I mean, even before the whole red flag thing, he just pushed too hard into that stump section and kind of ran it wide and unclipped, and then crashed like on his own. We actually talked a lot about juniors. Look at us go. A lot of junior
Yeah.
talk. They're good classes.
Okay, you have Chris Hauser on here. I'm just waiting for him. Like, I feel like he could be a good pick for fantasy because he's probably pretty cheap right now. And I know he's just been like kind of crashing out and stuff, but Val di Sole, he could be good for him.
I would agree. Talking fantasy and predictions for this weekend, like I'm saying, I still think you can't bet against Asa. I think everybody is going to be trying to match his pace, but Hauser would be rad to see him come back, not just from a fantasy standpoint, but like to get his season back on track because it's been rough. And I'm curious how his finger he dislocated is coming along. Like, hopefully with back-to-back rounds like this, he's not feeling it too much. But the kind of obvious names of like Dane, Milan, and Mike, like I think all of those second-year juniors are going to be really fast this weekend. And then the Allrin twins, they both, now one's won a World Cup. The other one has a fourth. Like, and it just seems like anybody who's on a console to me is really good when it gets steep and gnarly. So I'm sure they will be good. And then Lucas Lagnia on Canyon Pirelli. He's kind of a sleeper in the class, but second-year junior. He's had a pretty good season, highlighted by a 12th at 4 Bill, but he was 6th in qualifying this weekend and was 4th at Val di Sole last year. So I think he would be somebody that might not be valued as high as some of the other leaders in the class right now. It'd be a pretty good pick and could turn it up. One thing with fantasy, because I have consistently done better each round, so I'm becoming more and more invested, which is super stupid. But it's really fun. But for people that are into fantasy, load up your elites and then spend as little money on juniors as possible. Because what you can do is you can go lurk people's picks who won the weekend. And most people that are like having the most points, that's what they're doing. They're like, everybody's got like Loic and Valley on their team, and then they'll pick at least one junior in each category because you have to. That's like as cheap as it can be. That seems like the move. And then trying to get a lot of the elite women.
The break-even point for a junior win is like 15th or something in elite. I think all points wise.
Yeah, it's not very good.
So if I had the winner list, I had Max this weekend, and he was fairly cheap. But I also had Asa. And I kind of got screwed on that. But if you could have someone that's like in that 40 grand range, which I think Max was, I think that would be your best option, and like get them on the podium. And then, I definitely got screwed this week by Henry Kiefer. I'm just gonna put him out there. Henry Kiefer, Max Hardenstern, Remy Meyersmith, and Antoine Piron, all finishing. Antoine Piron 29th, Remy Meyersmith 30th, and then Max and Henry not even starting.
Yeah, I think Max and Henry got quite a few people.
Hopefully
they're okay and they're back this weekend racing.
I also had Kai Ahern as well, and Pinky, which were 24th and 25th.
I think that's fine though. I think if you can I go for the let me try to pick my podium race winners, like one or two maybe, and then I just try to fill up as many of like who's cheap and might actually do well, and start playing that balancing game. I might start a spreadsheet this week. I'm so close to it. I've got so many tabs open. It's too much.
Dude. Yeah, I feel like I've definitely gotten better each round. And so I think I've got my kind of tactics ironed out more so.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for us doing a podcast about giving people predictions, we got to at least be kind of okay at it. So
yeah, every week though, it's like I get the last four at Poland. I had the last four people as well. Because but I did have Ocean and Luca Shaw. Sorry, Dak, I switched you out for Luca Shaw this week, and it paid off. So
I did too. I had that was my two winning racehorses right there. Yeah. Or wait, no, I had Lockie. You're talking about this weekend or last one? Yeah.
This weekend, yeah.
Yeah, that was a real come up.
Yeah. I thought I wanted I thought I had Lockie on my team at one point, and then I kind of took him off, and I won't
tell him.
Don't tell him.
All right, we're bouncing around a bit. Elite women. I'm gonna breeze through this, and then if anything stands out, we can chat about it. But Valley has a perfect weekend, going 1-1-1. Pretty sick to see. 7-second victory. She's crushing it. Definitely vibing with the new team, the new bike. She just looks like ahead of everybody in the way she's riding right now in the elite women's class. So that was sick to see. Her points lead is huge now. It's 290 points. With Tawny and Nina crashing out and then Cammie not racing, it kind of blows the overall a bit.
That's almost an entire race if you count up semi points, I believe.
Well, I think an entire race, like she just went 1-1-1. I want to say it's 400 points.
Yeah.
But on average, like most riders are getting in like the mid 300 points if they win the overall for the weekend, which is something kind of to take note of. Like there's riders who will like their finish in finals will be different than their actual overall finish on the weekend, just with how well, like Finn, for example, finished second and then actually finishes like fifth on the weekend. So yeah, the overall's pretty blown out right now with just her having like almost 300 points up on everybody else, and then it gets a little tight after that. So if she can keep doing what she's doing, like her and Loic are going to have a pretty chill rest of the year. But anything can happen. Anna Newkirk in second. I would say this was a highlight of the weekend for sure, especially with her going 2-2-2. Like her interview with Win, she was kind of talking about how like you get second and then like all you can do better is like win, which is super hard to do. So like to get second again, it felt really good, obviously, and like to not do worse was probably like the hardest part about it all. And I mean, moves her up into fifth in the overall. She's not really like I need to like maybe we need to try to chat with her during the break between all the races and get more information on her program. I know it's been said out there before kind of what it is, but in her Win TV interview, I thought for sure she would get like the privateer award. And then she was saying how they do get some funding enough to at least make it all worthwhile to go to all the World Cups. But
yeah, I think that's what she said in the past is they cover all expenses and can take away a little bit. But it is still a very like frugal team.
Yeah.
They're not spending a whole lot of money. They do have a mechanic now and a coach, which is really sick. I saw that in the Win TV.
Totally.
I think before they were kind of like didn't have a mechanic at every round. But yeah, it seems like it's growing a little bit. I know. I mean, talking about growing, Elliot sponsors them with Grow Cycling, so that's pretty cool to see.
For sure. I think it's been just a matter of time for her. Like she had a good junior career. She's had some moments of being like I want to say she was third in qualifying at Fort William, or maybe it was semifinals. But to get second on the day is insane, and then to do second in all three races on the weekend is almost seems more important to me because it's just the proof that you can do it back to back. So stoked to see her this weekend. Stoked for it's Contra bikes, right?
Yep, Contra, Evan.
Oh, Evan. Stoked for him. That's sweet to see. Miriam Nicole, third, the second.
That was really
feel-good
sick
story of the weekend for me. Yeah, I mean, just for her to get back after her concussion last year and then her thumb injury leading into this year, and like, I mean, even she didn't make finals at the
Poland.
first two rounds.
She didn't race at Fort William and then didn't make finals at Poland.
No, she raced Fort William, I think.
Hold
on.
I think she just did. Maybe she did qualifying, but not. Or
I think she made it. Maybe didn't make it out of semifinals. Is what happened.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, didn't make it out of semis. Or didn't wait, no, I don't know. Did she not start
She
semis?
qualified 16th, and then
I don't think she started semis.
oh, okay.
Yeah, she didn't do a semi run. Or didn't even no, didn't.
Or wait, it's only 15.
Okay, yeah. So she
Look at
didn't.
us. We really
yeah.
know what we're talking about today.
Man,
It's only
we talk about it every week. They need to have more women in the show. So
I know, right? We're just
goes
so
to
upset
show.
about it. We can't even get the numbers straight of what it actually is.
It's crazy
being,
that there is no
she made it.
consistency throughout any of the classes. Every class is different. Like,
yeah,
I think it's 25 junior men or something.
Yeah, that one always throws me off. I never really remember junior men's because I think junior women's is like, 10.
I want to say it's. Let's see. I'll go to it right now.
Yeah,
it's like 15 or something for junior women, or it's 10. Yeah, it's 10 for junior women.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, it is.
In case somebody was wondering, it's not a lot. To be fair, though, there was only
15 junior women. So,
yeah. But yes. All right. Anyways,
but the fact that it's different throughout all the classes, and then you have to deal with the semifinals and finals and everything. But besides the point,
get rid of semifinals, make the women's fields bigger.
Yep.
Leave junior men at 25. That seems fine to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or just make it 30. Match elite men.
Also, junior men used to be 20 at one point. So,
like they want us to sound like we don't know what we're talking about.
And then it was 30 before then.
Okay. Anyways. Lisa Bauman, 4th.
Yep.
Pretty sick. Best
Yeah.
World Cup result. Yeah, she was somebody who didn't make finals the first 2 rounds. So similar to Miriam, like big bounce back.
Yeah.
Cool to kind of hear from her in Win TV because I don't know as much about her. And like you were mentioning earlier, her, Aris, and Valley all trained together. So that's really cool to see.
Yep.
Marine
Something's
Cabaroo in 5th.
Yeah, Marine. I was saying something's working there.
Yeah.
Them training together.
Yeah, Marine Cabaroo in 5th. Another good weekend. Moves up to 3rd in the overall. Second fastest in the lower woods behind Valley. Definitely has the skills there. Cami didn't start. Nina, after dislocating her elbow after Poland, kind of was like trying to have a damage control weekend, and it didn't go well with crashing twice in finals. And she still holds on to 4th in the overall, but I'm really curious how she'll do in Val di Sole this weekend, just with back-to-back rounds and such a rough track. Seems like a tough one. I can't believe she actually was able to hold on and make it through Leogang.
I know. I wonder. So what did she ended up 11th. So she does get points for 11th, right?
Mm-hmm. It's probably the same as 10th.
I think, yeah. And then, I was kind of wondering if it is even worth it to ride this weekend, but we'll see how it pays off next weekend.
It's going to be quite the uphill battle for her, but I mean, I hope it makes sense and works for her, because after that it's 2 weeks off or something like that before Leger, and then there's a big gap. So it's tough because she's got 2 more rounds, 3 total, of trying to just not fall too much out of the overall. But similar to we're still in elite women's. I was gonna say the gap back from her to Marine Cabaroo is not massive. It's like a little less than 70 points. And then the gap back to, or I guess the gap to Tawny is pretty big. That's like closer to a race for 2nd. Tawny did not have a great weekend. Well, kind of a hot and cold weekend with 3rd in semis, crashing in qualifying, and then crashing in finals. So be interesting what she can do in Val di Sole. She's been pretty vocal about not liking that track or not being a huge fan of it, but she also seems like she's the best we've seen her in the last couple of years right now. So it'd be cool to see her turn around maybe her own preconceived thoughts of Val di Sole this weekend.
Yeah, and kind of, I don't know, it's always funny like hearing someone just be like, I don't like that track, but
Yeah.
I think she will go pretty well on it this year. Just seeing the form that she's in, and she looks strong right now. But
Yep. I
yeah.
agree.
I think my a pick for this weekend would be Marine, knowing how good she is in technical conditions and on more steep tracks.
Totally.
And might be a little cheaper on the list in fantasy than some others.
Yep. I would agree. She's won Val di Sole in Worlds in 21. She won the World Cup in 22. Always a contender up there. Jess Blewett is another one.
Mm-hmm.
She was 4th in Poland and then went 6, 4, 10 in Leogang. Was on that podium run before crashing probably, but she finished 3rd in Val di Sole last year. So I think she's someone kind of same as Miriam that from a cost add to your team won't be too high, but I expect her to be up there. And even just from like a racing standpoint, it'd be cool to see those two names keep mixing things up along with Anna Newkirk. And then the one also I have on here is Gracie Hemstreet. Haven't talked a whole lot about her this year because she's had a pretty tough start to the year, yet to make a finals, but she was fast at Val di Sole last year. Crashed or had like a mistake or something because she was like fastest at the splits kind of up until that point. So take that momentum, confidence from last year. I think she could be somebody that finally turns it on this year and be sick to see. Just another name like that we know the potential's there. It's just kind of when. So
yeah, that we've talked about in the past is that team's had a rough go,
dude. Tough
real
year.
rough go.
Yeah,
I mean,
their kits are getting worse.
Oh no, I said something about it in the forums. It was very like Bosquet influenced.
Is that like a person? What is that?
Yeah, Jean-Michel Basquiat. He was an artist in the 80s. Yeah. Did the old thing where you die when you're pretty young and but
that's how you make your stuff expensive.
Yeah. But someone was like, I don't see it or whatever. I'm just gonna go ahead and say they were designed by Max. I forget his name. His Instagram handle's like 3dumb or something like that. He's one of the 50 to 1 dudes. And what's his? I forget his actual name. Max Nurker. He's from Sheffield, but
he's sick on a bike, and he's like an artist. And
if you go and look at his paintings, I didn't even know they were designed by him at first, but they are very inspired by Basquiat, and I think that's how you say it. But yeah, they are very inspired by him. So yeah, you can just go look for yourself. And
I enjoy aspects of what they're going for, but all combined, it looks a little unfortunate.
That the old saying, "There's nothing good with everything except an everything bagel." So just focus on what's good on there. Color palettes are pretty good. I'll let them have that. But dude, those portraits are just heinous. Like, just stop with the portraits. It is funny that Greg is sponsored by Fox and he doesn't wear the kits. But
yeah, it's a good point. I kind of forgot about old Greg. Hasn't really had the great year. He's still out there racing after his shoulder incident at Fort William, but okay, let's move on to Elite Men here. I feel like we're trying to do a short one and we're running long again. That's how these things go.
Do you want to? We kind of did overall points, I guess. Valley and kind of far ahead, but
I gave them pretty sloppily. But yes, Valley's in first, Tawny's in second, Marine's in third, Nina's in fourth, and Newkirk moves up to fifth.
Yep.
More obviously a split from Valley to everybody else, and then it's pretty average, normal for moving down from there. Moving on to Elite Men's. Loic won, as we mentioned and talked about, had almost a perfect run from splits. I mean, just sick to see. Like, he looked like he was pushing it more than he usually does in the lower woods. Like, I don't know. I'm such a fan, like, of everything he's doing, from the way he rides to how professional their team is to just everything about it. And I mean, it's his season and we're kind of watching it play out. So it's cool to see.
Yeah. Reminds me of Aaron on YT or Aaron on Specialized those later years.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mean totally. I mean, even Stevie Smith or Josh Bryceland or kind of all those riders that have had stints, where they're just on it, and you're just like stoked to see if anybody else can try to match them.
Yep.
Finn in second was really impressive with him sitting out qualifying in semifinals after either injuring his thumb or his hand, or maybe like
it was
his
like
thumb palm muscle.
He had tape on like his thumb and hand kind of somewhere in here.
Yep. That's insane to me, because to sit out a whole day and not know what the track's doing, and then have like 2 practice runs before your race run and just make it happen.
Yeah, it was best conditions for that to happen with all the overnight rain, how like heavy it came. Because he didn't get super comfy on the track in the dry.
Yeah, like a reset almost.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, pretty. So he still finished 5th on the weekend, even after not getting points and qualifying in semifinals, and moves from 6th to 3rd in the overall. So that's what you call damage control.
Yeah.
Classic case of damage control going on over
Yeah.
there.
Specialized.
Seen it once, seen it before. Lockie in 3rd. I have written down he ain't no fluke after his Poland firework almost, he like went up in smoke. But yeah, dude, sick to see. Like his lower woods, like we mentioned, were super dope. Moves from 25th to 13th in the overall. Come up. And just stoked for the union and their whole program, like to be basically like a boosted privateer effort, and to get somebody on an elite podium is really sick.
Yeah, an elite podium and a junior podium on one day's work.
Yeah,
pretty good day's work.
Pretty good Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely sick to see. And I mean, he's such a good, cool, chill vibe. Like, I'm really hoping that he keeps that going. And it sounds like now that he's proven to himself that he can be up there, he'll probably settle into that more instead of the like eagerness to prove that you can be up there.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, moving down, kind of just going through who finished where. Ocean and Callahan in 4th. Really good weekend.
Dude,
second on the weekend in points. Like,
proving consistency is just like, he's not just a fluke as well with his snowshoe performances in the past.
Totally. Yep. Really good in the lower woods, as we mentioned, like right behind Loic.
New YT looks good. You've ridden it, right?
I rode it for a day. I did 6 laps on it. So yes, I have the knowledge to know that it is good.
It goes good.
No, they YTs are really stiff to me. Like all of their carbon bikes.
Frame?
Yeah, the frame.
Okay.
And that bike felt really stiff. But
interesting.
That's just me, one person. And stiffness isn't always bad. So all right. Keep blowing through this. Benoit. I have him written down as Mr. Consistent in 5th. Like, he's had a consistent year, and for Val di Sole predictions, I think he could be somebody to definitely be on the podium, if not win it. He's good in conditions like that.
Yep.
Andreas Kolb in 6th, best result of the year, solid, good follow-up on winning last year. I mean, even though he didn't win it, like, sick to see him turn it up and have a good result. And he seems in a good spot. Like, he's somebody I think in Val di Sole could also be really fast.
It seemed like he felt the pressure a bit this weekend in his Win TV interviews and stuff.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
he had the whole cheering squad in the finish corral.
Yeah,
hats and everything.
Yeah, I mean, just with how whatever you want to call it, marketed him and Valley winning last year were, and then to come back here and she obviously wins in the morning before they race. So yeah, there's some pressure for sure. Moving on, Lucas Shaw finished 7th on the weekend, or 7th in finals, 4th on the weekend. Definitely would have been on the podium, maybe even contending for the win if he didn't have those issues in the lower woods. But fastest on the motorway, RockShox fly attendants, big FU to Olins and all their stuff. Keep moving on. Troy in 9th. both the Canyon boys have been on it this year. Like, had a bit of a off run, but third in qualies and semifinals, I believe. So still a really good weekend. He moves up to fourth in the overall. Loris, another off weekend. He's been on and off, it seems.
He's kind of always been like that, except for in 2021.
I know. I feel bad for the dude.
Yeah, 22
Like,
maybe.
He looked sick on the bike. He's very precise and on it. Was it they stole Canyon's kits this weekend, right? They were in all pink. The track boys?
No, it was
the other way around.
just Loris in all pink.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was borrowing Luca's kit, it looked like. Old Honey P was like, I see what TLD's doing. That homework looks easy to copy. Yeah, 19th though, 14th on the weekend with how he did in qualifying and semifinals. So see what he does in Val di Sole, you know.
Yeah, I think he can be up there in Val di Sole. I
think he'll be better than 19th.
I think he struggles when conditions change a lot. When there's overnight rains, that kind of stuff, or like track gets insanely blown out one day. When he can't see the track develop, I think that's when he tends to struggle, which has happened in snowshoe in the past when he was in the lead and then Loic won the overall.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, it seemed like in Poland where that track it was drying out, right? So kind of similar to Leogang, but he had a way looser run in Poland where he seemed really like classic Loris composed this weekend, which maybe just ends up being too reserved the whole way down to keep it safe. I mean, still had a decent weekend. So yeah, I don't know. I think Val di Sole will cater to him and that session. Like that bike seems good on stuff like that. So keep moving down. Ronan 12th. Looked really wild all weekend, and I think going into this weekend, I didn't think he would be up there that much, just because I don't know, like he's wild and loose, and maybe sometimes rushes and wastes energy. And on a track like that, where it's so tight in some of like that upper 2/3, like we're talking, and then if you get into the bottom and you're rushing it even more, it's easy to make a mistake. But 12th is still really good. Can't really take it away from him. I think Val di Sole, with the way he's been riding, he's going to be definitely a threat for the win, I think.
The crazy thing about Ronan's run is it was so all over the place. Like, you look at his splits, they're up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of like is how he looked on the weekend. Like the clips of him from practice were sick, like so pinned, but every other clip would be him kind of like running it wide almost into like a tree.
I think he's still finding that consistency. I think having the team and that structure has helped a lot with his consistency. I think more so than himself finding it. I think the team telling him things is actually what's helping.
Yeah. No, for sure. He'll be up there this weekend in Val di Sole. I don't really have any doubts about it if he can keep it together. Drops from second to fifth in the overall. I have that written wrong in my notes here. I have it written the opposite. Bernard in 8th, best result of the season. Definitely threw away maybe another position or more better in the feet blow off section at the very bottom. I don't think it was a ton of time, but it definitely was something. But cool to see. He's always fast there. I'm excited to see. I do like the way he rides on a bike, and I think a place like Val di Sole, it looks the most insane because it's so loose and wild, and he's like riding like a dirt bike. It kind of looks like really, really swinging off of it. So, other noteworthies, my last two here is Joe Breeden in 20th, his best result in a really long time. And I was really stoked to see that because he was doing good in qualifying, semifinals, and I was like, he kept it the same for finals. So that was dope. I mean, running the Intense Factory team now. So good stuff.
Coming off injuries and everything in the last couple years. Seems like that was what he needed.
Good to see. And then Thibaut Duprel in 10th. That's his best result this season. Looked more like himself from the last couple years. A little bit, maybe a little bit more polished though, not as wild.
Yeah.
So that's good to see. I did I mean, some of his race runs from years past will be forever legendary because they were just so like edge of your seat.
Yeah.
And he seems like he's matured quite a bit with his riding style. So another person that, who knows, take this momentum and go into Val di Sole and be ready just to let off the brakes like old times. I have a list of people who crashed that I stopped adding to at some point, but there was Ollie Davis, Antoine Piron, Remy Meyer-Smith, Bodie Kuhn, Pinky, Kaya Hearn, and there's probably a few more that I'm forgetting. But yeah, definitely like the most crashes I've seen at a World Cup in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, the product of the 30-man final as well.
Yeah.
Is maybe people are more likely to go for it because they already know that they're getting points and they're in the top 30.
Yep.
For those people that are the wild card picks, which I have put the wild cards on my fantasy team the past couple weekends because I'm like, oh, more people in the finals, like guaranteed points. And then those have been the people that have finished at the bottom. So maybe I need to pick more people in that like 10 to 20 range and
it's
spend
tough.
a little more money.
Totally. It's hard because somebody like Loris is in my mind that like, all right, I'm going to pick my like,
That's your
on the
top 10
podium.
dude.
Yeah, but my top 10, and then he gets a 19th, and someone like Loic who like gets a podium. You're like, well, this is hard.
But Loic was still, I think, like 80 something grand or something like that. So
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, like those people like Henry Kiefer and that were like 30 grand. And I'm scooping all those guys up. And I'm like, ooh, maybe if I got rid of Henry Kiefer and Antoine Piron, I would have had like 75 grand to spend on someone who was in the top 20.
I think the unfortunate factor is going to be not picking Asa. Because Asa's like 80 grand.
I know. And then now one of the Allrins is going to be expensive. And
what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Danger, it's expensive.
It's like you're not picking you're not picking any juniors.
Yeah.
Just kidding, you have to. All right, I'll run through the overall real quick going into Val di Sole after Leogang. Loic, obviously in first, Lucas Shaw in second, Finn is in third, Troy's in fourth, Ronan in fifth. That's where I stopped writing it down. If you Google like World Cup live timing, that page at the very top you click on gives you live timing during the race weekend, but it also gives you race results and overall standings. And you can click on race results for each category. Just if anybody, I've like, for the longest time, I was like, it's so hard to find where like overalls are. But if you just Google Leogang World Cup downhill live timing, that first link will work.
Yeah, if you just look for it, it's there.
I mean, the UCI loves to hide stuff.
Yeah, just like how much it costs to race, how much it costs to host a World Cup. It's there.
Yeah. Tanner will provide that info if you're considering hosting a World Cup in 2026 at this point. All right. Well, we've named a lot of names for who will be fast this weekend. I think a lot of people that were up there in Leogang will be contenders. Hopefully Dakotah is feeling all right after his slam because I think Val di Sole will cater to him quite a bit. The other name I have that we didn't really mention was Remy Tiron.
Yeah.
Always a contender when things are steep in tech. And he's been like consistent 15th to 18th place this year.
I was about to say, he's my guy. Like that's one of my guys that I've been picking.
Yeah. Add to your team right now.
Like, I'm like, dude, you know what? He's my top 20 guy. He's going to score me 60 points at least. And, you know, I'm going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
Not too expensive. Slides under the radar.
Yep. I don't think there's anybody we're totally missing on mentioning for next weekend. You know, I think that like the Troy and Luca will be fighting for the podium as they have this whole year. But tracks like this that are same as like a Fort William, where it's like unique in its own way, a Val di Sole will kind of always produce at least one name in that top 5 or top 10 that is different than usual. So that'll be cool to see who that is that rises up there. Maybe it'll be.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say Dylan Maples.
Oh, I like that.
Our boy didn't make the final this weekend, but who knows?
Yeah, we
They'll
kind
be
of had
hungry.
a small showing of U.S. riders in the final this weekend.
Mhm.
Let's give Pinky a shout out. His first final as an elite.
Yep.
But someone who I was gonna say is one of the IC Studio boys. I think Thomas's stack. He has done well in the past at Val di Sole. So if you're looking for someone that could be your wild card, I think he's your guy. 16th last year.
I'm into that.
At Val di Sole, qualified 10th, semifinal 13th, final 16th. This year has been just outside the finals, but he's healthy. So he's got two wrists on him right now. So that's all you can ask for.
I like it. Yeah. All right, everybody go play fantasy and tune into this weekend's race. And if you don't want to pay for it, at least get on our side or the other sites out there and interact.
And if you don't want to pay for it, go on Funk's Instagram. I think he does a live stream of it. Or just go on Tiz or whatever it
I
is.
was going to say, isn't there Tiz cycling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way to watch it, apparently. I've heard.
Yeah, I've heard. Allegedly.
Allegedly. That won't hold up in court. Burgtec Labor of Love, our last section where we highlight the person from the weekend who
I think
had a good round. You just highlighted somebody.
I think that person because I mean
we already mentioned them.
The one above is like we had talked about. Also on the Win TV, they mentioned about their setup and stuff. So
I'm cool with that. I think Lucas Eudora, 6th place, 3rd World Cup ever. I think after his 9th was that in Poland that he got 9th?
Yes, I believe so.
I believe after that round, whichever round it was between him and whoever ended up picking. And so I think I probably said if do a little bit better, we'll get to that labor of love. So I like that. Doing it for the American crew.
Mm-hmm.
And
he also did the back and forth between the World Cups. So he did race Mountain Creek in pro and got 4th.
That's right. I did see that.
So,
all right.
Monster Energy series.
I like that. Anna Newkirk, you were also up there, but maybe we'll try to do something with you that isn't of just straight monetary gain, but maybe we'll try to do something with you this season to give you some more love and coverage and whatnot. So, sick. We talked a lot about Val di Sole, which was kind of nice. Don't have a lot of info on the track just yet. I saw some stories from Win of them taping it a little bit different, which I'm always a fan of. And Val di Sole historically is pretty good at that. They keep it fresh year in and year out. And weather is a massive factor. It looks like it can always rain. We're in the mountains.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably rain a little bit. It's just when and how much. So
and I'm interested to see what they do with the prep because that is a track that they prep. I will say they prep it because they have been known to bring in rocks and dirt, not just small rocks, but big rocks.
They got the rocks.
Yeah. Somehow on that steep hillside or mountainside, they bring in rocks and they also bring in dirt. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. And I like how they kind of move the track over each year.
Yep. It doesn't take much to make a track ride way different and be refreshing to watch. So, and they seem to have the options on their hillside to make that happen. So, I'm sure it'll be as good as ever. It'll probably be one of the better rounds this year, just because Val di Sole is, I would say, the gnarliest. So,
known to provide.
Yep. And like I mentioned, probably way earlier, the race is on Saturday this week. So everything shifts a day earlier. So it's sweet. Friday, we get qualifying, semifinals. Wake up Saturday morning if you're in the US and watch some racing. I think that's it. I think we did it. Who knows if I'll hear from Dakotah between now and the next time we do a podcast, but hopefully he's okay.
I did not crash in that. That was watching this on video.
Like this super cool photo has been behind me the entire time. Yeah, I totally nailed that.
I crashed before that in my qualifying run. So, and then I, got between two lines and scrubbed off some man-made rock feature.
I like it. Just rocking the triple digit plate.
Yeah.
Triple digits were hot in 2017.
Oh yeah. I think it was still a practice though.
Damn, it tells you how many people are at Leogang.
Yeah, I think there was over 200.
It's insane.
You used to get those wild card Eastern Europeans come out.
I don't know what it is about Leogang that everybody likes to go to, but if you're a up and coming racer trying to get your feet wet at World Cups, don't race Leogang. Go to Snowshoe or Montanan.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
just anywhere but Leogang.
anywhere
Anywhere but
way too
Leogang
many.
or Fort William.
Yeah, Fort William's high as well. Okay, thank you everybody for listening to the B Practice podcast. Thank you as always, Maxxis, Burgtec, Industry 9 for supporting the show that we do here, and we will see everybody in a week, next week. Recap Val di Sole. Sweet. Deuces. Peace. Double thumbs up. Yeah, there we go.